Part 243. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2427. That's right, Lord Jiayan, your fighting power is so terrifying. If I were that black sheep, I would definitely praise your strength at the last moment. The dolphin creature next to Gaia was also sweating coldly at this time, and was so frightened that he could hardly speak. It's impossible not to say it. He can see that Jia Yan's combat power is really that of a senior domain master, and he is a senior domain master with subspace talent. If there is a conflict with him, even if Lord Gaia wants to protect him, I'm afraid he will die here today. Besides, how could Lord Gaia protect him? So he can only say good things as much as possible. As for pursuing the death of Black Sheep, he has no intention at all. It is the last word to save his own life. Jia Yan was speechless for a while. He just felt that these two guys were really representative of the ruthless people. Compared to them who are able to adapt to the changing circumstances, the black sheep who have just set foot on this road are simply minor players. Jia Yan looked at the black sheep floating in the sky from a distance, and his heart was not without any waves. But no matter how many inner dramas there are, killing is still killing. Isn't it possible to save the person? Maybe if you save him now, it is really possible to save him. After all, he is a domain lord level powerhouse with incredibly strong vitality. But no one will do that. Because this ending is pretty good. Unless Jia Yan really wants to make a big fuss, wipe out the dolphin forces, provoke Gaia, and finally make it more difficult for the Zerg Queen forces to settle in this area or even a wider area, otherwise he will just that's it for now. Well, that's fine. This farce mainly started from within the Zerg Queen's forces, so it will end here. Jia Yan shook his head. My lady Queen of the Zerg, do you feel relieved by this? Jia Yan was not in a hurry to reply to the two powerful men. He just released his brainwave power into space and quietly passed it to the palace of the Zerg Queen below. His meaning was very simple. He asked the Zerg Queen if she was satisfied to this extent. After all, the trip of the Zerg Queen's force was not very smooth. There were many places where she was exploited on the way. She also served as a mercenary force in this starry sky. If all the characters want revenge, there will be a lot to do. The Zerg Queen probably didn't expect that Jia Yan would ask her opinion on such a big issue. Jia Yan is already such a terrifying strong man. From her point of view, he should be quite selfish on many issues. Unexpectedly, he is actually willing to ask her opinion just to give her face. The Queen of the Zerg even wondered if Jia Yan would agree to it if she said she would continue to fight and wipe out all the dolphins and the forces behind him, or even wipe out most of the conflicting forces in the starry sky. But, after all, the Queen of the Zerg is still the Queen of the Zerg. She cannot express such a request, and she will not use such an over-the-top request to consume Jia Yan's favorability towards her power. So she answered quickly. Lord Jia Yan, that's enough. Except for Black Sheep, we are not strong enough to deal with other incidents. If we ask you to handle them again, it will be too troublesome for you. Lord Jia Yan? You. Jia Yan was startled, then smiled bitterly. She has shown her abilities. If she were not called Lord Jia Yan, she would feel uncomfortable, but being called that way, she always felt that something was missing. So this is the discomfort caused by the change of status. No matter what, it will not be so pleasant. Of course, this is just a matter of getting used to it, and it will not affect the relationship between the two parties. At least Jia Yan doesn't think so. Okay, and Queen, you don't have to think too much. I call you Queen because I'm used to it. Besides, I never said it before. I am no longer part of the Zerg Queen force. In the future, as long as you are willing, I will always be in this force. A name. The Queen of the Zerg on the Patchwork Planet did not think about crying when she was seriously injured, She did not think about crying when she was cornered, and she did not think about crying when she was dealing with the huge interpersonal relationships among her subordinates. But at this moment, she almost cried because of Jia Yan's words. No matter how you say it, she is always a female creature. She has the delicacy and sensibility of female creatures that Earth women should have. Usually, it is just because her status and strength are too high that she cannot show it at all. Lord Jia Yan, now that the matter is over, you don't have to be so nervous, right? Ha ha ha, by the way, it's not good for your force to rest in a place like this. Why not go to my force and I will divide a temporary. How about giving your forces a temporary rest in the rest area? The dolphin creature changed its face so fast that even others could not imagine it. He didn't even glance at Black Sheep's dead body. He walked straight up and spoke words of invitation to Jia Yan. Then I'm sorry to bother you, but this power is not mine, but the Queen of the Zergs. I'm just one of her subordinates. Make no mistake. Jia Yan said calmly, which made the dolphin creature couldn't help but turn its gaze to the ruined planet and take a deep look at the palace. At this time, the Zerg Queen's subordinates were regarded by him as beings that he should never provoke again in the future. Even the weak ones among them, if there was a conflict in the future, they would at most find a way to mediate it. Otherwise, if any of them happened to be a little bit different from Jia Yan, if he had a friendly relationship, wouldn't he be unlucky if he killed the weakling? It is not difficult to see that Jia Yan has a great affection for the Zerg Queen, because even if his strength reaches this level, he does not want to control the Zerg Queen. In many of the following tasks, many insiders of the Zerg Queen's force came to inquire about Jia Yan's work or suggestions, but Jia Yan dismissed them all because they were unfamiliar with him. In fact, anyone with a discerning eye can see that Jia Yan is unwilling to take power, which will only slow down the progress. Let others think that he covets the power of the Zerg Queen. During this whole process, Gaia did not choose to leave, but carefully stayed with Jia Yan just like she did at the distribution center. During this period, Gaia and the dolphin creature, who was more cautious and did not dare to speak, slowly learned about Jia Yan's experience and growth trajectory through insinuations and hearsay. They were shocked. Is this the growth process of Mr. Jia Yan? It's simply amazing. Mr. Jia Yan was born in a more remote place than them, but because of his talent and hard work, he gradually walked out of the barren land where he was, and then became the existence of today's senior domain lord level is so inspiring. After listening to some of Jia Yan's self-report and the additions from Leda and Zykan beside him, the dolphin creature couldn't help but praise him. Actually, I can't be considered a real senior domain master. As soon as Jia Yan said these words, he felt that the surrounding atmosphere suddenly became quiet, and even several powerful creatures who were busy hundreds or thousands of kilometers away were stunned. Gaia was as solidified as a fossil, and a stormy momentum swept over the entire place. If Jia Yan is not a senior territory lord, then he can only be an ordinary territory lord. In other words, his strength is definitely not enough to make the several powerful men present and countless creatures worship him. And Gaia can definitely kill him easily. A strange smell, gradually filled with the smell of gunpowder, spread throughout the place. Jia Yan seemed a little surprised and looked around, as well as everyone's movements and expressions. What's wrong with you? I am indeed not a senior domain master. Call. Gaia felt that her momentum was about to explode completely. He felt that Jia Yan was really good and actually said that he was not a senior domain master. Although his previous momentum and the feeling when he killed the black sheep did look like a senior domain lord, this was just a matter of feeling. Now even he himself said that he was not a senior domain lord, so it should be credible, right? If you are not a senior domain master, you can definitely kill him in such a close place with one strike. Jia Yan, if you want to blame yourself for being too honest. You actually revealed your true identity after you thought it was safe. Gaia's eyes began to show a ferocious light. But what Jia Yan said next made him freeze again. You don't really think that I have been promoted to the top of the intermediate galaxy for less than 5 years, and I can cultivate to a senior domain master, right? I don't believe this myself. Haha, I don't know how many people know about the combat type in the black hole area. Territory Lord? For a person of this level, as soon as he is promoted to Territory Lord, his combat effectiveness will be comparable to that of a senior person. I am a combat type Territory Lord. Puff. Gaia held in her energy for a long time, and when she quickly dissipated her energy, she almost couldn't hold her breath. However, how quickly the power is raised, how quickly it is released when hearing the words Combat Type Domain Master. Ahem, Jean, Fighting Type Domain Lord? Lord Jia Yan, you are a Fighting Type Domain Lord. Gaia's jaw was almost shocked by Jia Yan's words. Lord Gaia, do you know about the Fighting Territory Lord? What exactly is this? The dolphin creature seemed confused about the Fighting Territory Lord. However, he answered the question immediately to ease the atmosphere, because even he had sensed some of Gaia's changes in strength just now. If he couldn't say more to ease the atmosphere, Jia Yan might have a real fight with Gaia. There is no doubt about the battle. Dolphin, you have never been to the black hole area, but you must know how many giant stars there are in the black hole area, right? This matter is not a secret to us domain lords. Those giants are far beyond the imagination of our outsiders. Among the superstars, there are many combat type beings. The combat power of each combat type being is much stronger than that of the same level. This is even the case when it reaches the domain lord level. If Mr. Jia Yan is a fighting type territory lord, which can explain why his fighting power is so terrible, tisk tisk, you really can't see the truth. Your Excellency Jia Yan is actually a fighting type. It is said that the fighting type territory lord has been promoted to the intermediate level of territory lord. The possibility is far greater than that of ordinary domain lords. Your Excellency Jia Yan, the future is really very bright. After Gaia heard that Jia Yan was a fighting domain lord, it can be said that Gaia's attitude towards Jia Yan became more respectful. He just hated why he had the idea of attacking a combat type territory lord before. You know, this is a combat type territory lord who is almost invincible at the same level. And more importantly, combat type domain lords at the domain lord level are generally strong competitors to the intermediate domain lords. It is said that among the successfully promoted intermediate domain lords, at least 20% are former combat type domain lords. Don't underestimate the mere 20%. You must know that among the initial level of territory lords, the proportion of combat type territory lords may not even be 1,000th or 1,000th. But when it comes to the middle level territory lords, there the ratio has increased to 20%, which shows how successful the combat type domain lord is in being promoted to the intermediate domain lord level. Of course, even for a combat type territory lord, the possibility of being promoted to the intermediate territory lord is far lower than imagined, so Gaia just said this and did not expect that Jia Yan would really be promoted to the intermediate territory lord, because for most territory lords, even senior territory lord Gaia, it is just a dream. The dolphin on one side was even more shocked after listening to Gaia's narration. What he said just now seems to be relatively short, and Jia Yan has no intention of continuing to talk in depth. However, in these few sentences and Gaia's explanation, certain things can be clarified. Jia Yan has been to the black hole area. Maybe even one of several black hole giant stars. What's even more exaggerated is that he has become a combat type domain lord that is probably rare among superstars. It is very likely that Jia Yan's promotion was achieved among the superstars in the black hole area. You must know that he also yearned for the black hole area, but did not have the courage to go there at all. But Jia Yan was lucky enough to do what he couldn't do. No wonder he is a combat type territory lord, and he is not even a shit. Fighting domain lord. Far away on the planet Kipi Ba, the Zerg Queen in the main hall also chewed on these words, and then sighed quietly. People's fate is really unimaginable. She has already outlined Jia Yan's original roadmap. She was forced out of her own power by the Black Sheep, and then traveled all the way in reverse, passing through various difficulties and obstacles, and finally entered the black hole area known as the most mysterious and dangerous in the entire galaxy. She even entered something she didn't know about until now. In the Superstar, he practiced there and finally achieved his current strength. If he hadn't been freed from the power of her Zerg Queen, or was Jia Yan just one of these seriously injured subordinates? Maybe even the Black Sheep who hated him had been sheared long ago. Therefore, it is impossible to say whether something like this in life is a blessing or a curse. Of course, when Jia Yan was driven out by the forces, he still did not forget to strengthen his original intention and went retrograde to the most dangerous area in the entire galaxy. In essence, it is his own mentality and will. The strength is strong enough. Text download address. Phone reading. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2428. If it had been someone else, or even the Queen of the Zerg, she might have chosen a safe area in the central star field of the galaxy after suffering that kind of blow, and practiced slowly to wait for a breakthrough. Who would dare to think of stabbing her in one breath? Entering the most dangerous place. Maybe there is something wrong with my thinking. I brought my whole family to the central star field of the Milky Way. If I was like Jia Yan and started my own business here, would I also have such an opportunity? This is the idea of the Zerg Queen, but she only thinks about this idea, because she can't deal with it in this situation, let alone a more critical situation. Jia Yan has subspace talent and is first class in escape, but her life talent seems to be very good, but when she encounters an unstoppable strong person, she is just a little person who can die in one hit. So Jia Yan can do it, but she can't. My queen, I forgot to tell you that there are the supplies you need on my Edisha star, and it is safer up there. Why don't you move it up there and repair it, and I will protect you. Okay, I'll leave it to you, Lord Jia Yan. The Queen of the Zerg is quite unaccustomed to taking care of Jia Yan. She has lived her life independently for too long, and now she seems to have to rely on another strong person, which makes her feel strange both physically and mentally. However, she was not a coquettish person. After accepting Jia Yan's kindness, she saw a gap suddenly opened in the patchwork planet, and a mutilated female creature looked like an insect. Flying up, in front of everyone, she took a deep look at Jia Yan in the starry sky, then looked at the dolphin creature on one side, and bowed lightly to the senior domain master of Gaia, and then the person in front of her. A hole opened in the subspace, and his body went straight into the hole. The hole healed quickly, and everyone could no longer see the true leader of the Zerg Queen's power. This is our Zerg Queen. If you see my lady in the future, please give her some face so that she will no longer be hurt by villains. Jia Yan turned around and said to the two of them calmly. The strong man said. That's natural. I am also an acquaintance of the Queen of the Zerg. We have cooperated before. By the way, I forgot to pay the commission for the last cooperation, so she disappeared. This time I was bewitched by the Black Sheep. The purpose of coming here was the only person who settled the money was that Black Sheep lied to me and said that the Zerg Queen wanted to charge twice as much money. I got a little angry now. Now that I know that Black Sheep was behind everything, I understand that in the future I have to apologize nicely to the Queen of the Zerg sisters. The dolphin creature was like a face-changing monster. It quickly found an excuse from the hostility of the previous battle, and instantly thought of an excuse to clear up its problems. Jia Yan couldn't help but look at this dolphin creature strangely, with a little surprise on his face. This kind of domain lord is so shameless. Jia Yan disdains his company. Of course, he completely forgot about what he had done in Biostar. At that time, he was doing similar things to survive well. Humph, anyway, I, Jia Yan, am a high-spirited and upright person, and a great combat-type territory lord at the level of a senior territory lord. Is this the being you want to save? I understand, Lord Jia Yan, it seems that you are so anxious for no reason. On the other side, Gaia had a look of gossip on her face, as if she understood why Jia Yan was so anxious and concerned when he went to the distribution center to ask for resources. Gaia, there are some things you shouldn't talk nonsense about. I am a man with a family. Jia Yan stared at Gaia with a focused gaze, barely letting out his own aura and giving the opponent a substantial attack. Seeing Jia Yan like this, Gaia quickly stopped her gossiping mood, smiled and stopped teasing. You really can't talk nonsense about this kind of thing, especially for a strong person. If you dare to talk nonsense, the two of them were friends. If things change, Jia Yan will fight against you. Jia Yan from the outside world needs to make a final reckoning with these powerful men and the enemy's approaching team. In addition, how to deal with those who originally belonged to the Zerg Queen's forces and later betrayed them. Jia Yan needs time to deal with these. The Zerg Queen was unprepared and entered the Edisha planet where she had been waiting for a long time in the subspace. Wow, hello, Zerg Queen, I'm Edisha. Edisha was waiting all the way on the planet. When the Zerg Queen flew into Edisha's planet, she cheered happily. Hello Editha, I know you, but this is the first time for you to speak formally. A slight smile appeared on the face of the Zerg Queen, which looked like a human woman. Wow, the Queen remembers me. Edisha is so happy. The Master asked Edisha to send the Queen to heal. The things are over there. Go and take a look. Okay, thanks. The Zerg Queen originally thought that the healing medicine that Jia Yan found in such a short time was not very good, because she thought that the best healing materials she needed were not that easy to collect at all. But when she was actually led by Edissa and walked to a large pile of supplies, her whole mind was stunned. This is... He, my queen, the master is looking for supplies for you and directly threatens a distribution center. Ha, it's really fun. Several senior domain masters followed the master and he scared them half to death. Small light and shadow mosquitoes were flying around in the sky, as if it was me who had done such a terrible thing, and I was so proud of myself. Distribution center? Several senior domain lords flying with you? This Jia Yan. For a moment, the Zerg Queen felt that she was really lucky to befriend Jia Yan. You must know that all the materials in front of her are the best healing materials in her ideal. With them, she will not only be able to recover from her injuries as quickly as possible, but it will also be possible to further improve her talents. Jia Yan definitely meant it, and she could imagine that the scene of Jia Yan's confrontation with several senior officials was absolutely thrilling. Suddenly thinking of Gaia outside, she suddenly understood why this creature said those words before, and was extremely afraid of Jia Yan. It turned out to be because of this. My queen, you can heal your wounds now. Go to the main hall to heal your wounds. Edita will be your guard. You will be fine. Okay, I'll go to the main hall. This Jia Yan's planet is really getting more and more impressive. When the Zerg Queen saw the Edisha star built by Jia Yan, it felt like a huge improvement compared to the original sketch in the Zerg Queen's energy circle, and she was also a little emotional. Edisha helped. Queen, please go quickly. Edisha will guard the door. Not long after, Editha escorted the Zerg Queen who used her brainwave power to carry a large amount of supplies, and then she lay happily on the top of the hall, and her little mosquito compound eyes looked around fiercely, as if she was really a loyal person. General Guard. Outside the subspace, Jia Yan naturally had a rough idea of what was happening in Edisha. He felt that the Zerg Queen was not too entangled. After entering the palace to practice, he smiled in relief. In this way, the many things he owed to the Zerg Queen can be considered almost paid off. Of course, this cannot be said between friends. At least Jia Yan will continue to associate with the Zerg Queen's forces in the future, otherwise what will he do when he returns? That's it. I'm going to see those old friends. I haven't chatted with them for a long time. You can do whatever you want. Jia Yan stopped communicating with Gaia and the dolphin creatures, left them behind, and went to the gathering place where the remnants of the Zerg Queen's forces gathered. This made the strong men of the Zerg Queen's force feel flattered one by one. You know, Jia Yan is not only a domain lord, but also a more powerful being than the Zerg Queen, or even the dolphin creature that surpasses the Zerg Queen. He is actually willing to take the initiative to come. Going to them and chatting with them is simply the most approachable existence. Hello everyone, long time no see. Please forgive me. My avatar has not revealed my identity these days. After all, the avatar is still a bit weak. I can't get there for a while. I am afraid that my identity will be exposed and the information will be revealed, allowing the enemy to attack the Zerg Queen's forces first. Unfavorable. Jia Yanfei came closer and first explained his reasons for not revealing his identity. Hello, Mr. Jia Yan. Mr. Jia Yan is so polite. How can we mind this? That's right, Mr. Jia Yan saved us and others. We have to thank Mr. Jia Yan. How can we mind your helpless actions? Haha, Mr. Jia Yan, your style is still the same. Oh no, your appearance today is more elegant than before. I still remember that we had a chat 7 years ago. I didn't expect that in the blink of an eye, they are all already senior domain masters. Master Jia Yan, what you said makes us a little embarrassed. If any of us really care about those trivial things, wouldn't we be a blind villain? A group of either galaxy level or star level powerhouses, one or two, were simply flattered and quickly expressed their understanding of Jia Yan's explanation. Jia Yan smiled. To be honest, among these creatures, he actually saw several of his former half-friends. He said half-friends because several of them could talk when they met, but could not completely get to know each other. But not a stranger. They can be regarded as old friends. Now, after many years of separation, some of their strength has improved, some have stayed still, and some have disappeared. It is not known whether they are dead or have left. Anyway, chatting with these old friends is also a kind of enjoyment for Jia Yan. He can guarantee that this is not because he has become famous, but he is happy to enjoy the envy and admiration of his former friends. I am a senior domain master, how can I be so superficial? You don't care about this, so I'm relieved. Come on, let me take a look at some of your injuries. I've learned a bit about medicine in the past few years, which may be useful in helping you heal your injuries. Jia Yan started to show off calmly. Phew, I'm not showing off, I'm just helping my friends. The dolphin creature in the distance on one side, and Gaia, who came to help the dolphin creature and was preparing to have a good show of relief, seemed a bit dejected at this moment. Although Jia Yan spoke very friendly to them, his attitude was obviously not that good. Now he even left them and ran to meet some old friends. Although this seemed to be the case, it showed on the other hand that he was very interested in them. These two territory lords, other than Jia Yan and the Zerg Queen, were not that respectful at all. But even if they knew this, what could they do? Just now, the two of them were enemies of the Zerg Queen force to which Jia Yan belonged. How could Jia Yan communicate well with his former enemies? Lord Gaia, since you are here, you can go and sit in my power later. I have some programs there that you should like, sir. Gaia glanced sideways and let herself go to the powerful dolphin, then sneered, forget it, I won't go, dolphin, I am very unhappy with what you did this time. If there is nothing important in the future, there is no need to contact me about anything. Ah. Gaia said goodbye to Jia Yan from a distance, turned directly into a phantom-like brainwave power, and quickly entered a super-speed flight mode. It seemed that she was returning to the distribution center. He originally came out to relax, but he enjoyed another wave of heartbreaking incidents, which made him lose his mood at all. The dolphin looked at Gaia leaving, feeling completely lost. You know, when he invited Gaia to join his own force, it was not just for fun, but to let other forces see that he really invited Gaia to his own force. Even if this battle declaring defeat, the entire force suffered a major blow, but as long as someone saw this scene, he also won. But Gaia didn't give him a chance at all. Damn it, it's all caused by that damn black sheep. Let's see if the Zerg Queen's forces want this guy's head. If not, I'll take it back and use it as a urinal. Jia Yan didn't care about the black sheep's remains and the more complicated relationships that followed. Jia Yan doesn't want to waste his brain cells on these small things. So he just said hello to many acquaintances from the Zerg Queen's forces, and then returned to his own subspace. I don't want to be pulled back by a stellar powerhouse who seems to have remembered something. By the way, Master Jia Yan, I remember that more than half a month ago, a female galaxy-level creature came to ask for your information. At that time, I was a little scared, so I told him the information I knew. Female creature? What does she look like? When Jia Yan heard this, after being startled for a moment, he remembered a certain image. I suddenly felt a headache and asked about its true appearance. After a while, the star-level creature left the place with some fear. Jia Yan was left alone with a gloomy expression and stayed here for a long time. Then what kind of concubine? Has she really walked out of the black hole area? Yes, we can all enter and leave through the normal door. If she has a way, it should be easy to get out of the outside world, but, she really asked me what will the future do with intelligence, even intelligence from Earth. Jia Yan thought solemnly. A primary being of the galaxy was a trivial matter to him, and could be crushed to death with just a few fingers. But it was different when placed in other places, especially places like the Orion Arm, not to mention that this concubine was a strong person in the black hole area. Much stronger than ordinary ones of the same level. Text download address. Phone reading. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2429. Forget it, I will go back to the Orion Arm when I have the chance. Although this star class knows that I was born in the Orion Arm, it does not know the accurate information about the Earth. Even if the concubine wants to find it, it will take a certain amount of time. Give me some with time, I will definitely be able to catch up with her. Jia Yan silently thought about this matter. Of course, he was not in a hurry, because the journey was far away, and it might not be that simple for this powerful female creature to rush there. When I came here, I used the energy space of the Zerg Queen's force to travel. Otherwise, even if Jia Yan used his subspace talent at that time, plus the Edisha backpack at that time, it would not be possible to have such a strong battery life for such a long journey. If it is too far, the energy will be consumed several times along the way, and then it will need to go out of space to search, which will inevitably lead to another conflict and battle. With so many forces and dangers on the way, Jia Yan may be lost on the way. So he thought that even if the concubine wanted to rush to the Orion Arm, it would take a long time to prepare, and besides, would such a lunatic existence give up while doing it? Anyway, it won't be that fast. I'll take care of things here first, and then rush back. With the clone watching, even an ordinary clone should be able to handle some emergencies. Jia Yan is relatively relieved about his clones. Although the connection with his clones has become weaker due to the long distance, but even if it is weak, he has been sending his best wishes to these clones over the years. After promotion and enlightenment, the venerable level avatars on Earth may now be equivalent to the strong men at the pinnacle of the stars. Well, With greater ability comes greater responsibility. Fortunately, I am a person who is promoted quickly. Otherwise, those strong people would be promoted slower and would be disturbed by various matters on the way to promotion. One's own improvement, and then the continuous vicious cycle, leading to the inability to improve in strength in the end. Jia Yan finally understood why some strong people were not bad at talent, but once they were delayed at a certain level, they were delayed for a lifetime. Because the strength of the strong man increased, he could not keep up with the increase in affairs, and was eventually dragged down by those messy chores, leading to failure in life. Being a strong person is the same as being a human being on earth. People who are focused on nothing can often accomplish something. If you have distracting thoughts in your mind, you can't do anything. Even if you say you are trying your best, in fact, you are thinking about something. For other things, it is impossible to use all your abilities. This is the difference between strong people and weak people. Jia Yan has lived for hundreds of years and has actually learned a lot about his outlook on life. Master Jia Yan, do you have any orders? Leda's voice sounded behind Jia Yan. Jia Yan silently turned around and looked at Leda, who had become more submissive to one side. This former good friend completely changed his attitude and became a complete subordinate. I wonder why someone like him, who has lived for hundreds of years, can still adapt to such a change in identity? Jia Yan was a little silent and couldn't help but think about something. Of course, this kind of thoughts about his outlook on life and small matters could not disturb his own reaction too much. After just thinking calmly, Jia Yan ordered Leda to come. Since Leda is willing to become his subordinate, he is also happy to see it happen. You go collect the remains of Black Sheep. After all, he is a former colleague. Even if he made mistakes, he still contributed to my Zerg Queen's power. Deal with it well in the future to avoid falling into Xiao Xiao's hands. After his death, still have to be tortured. Yes. After Leda heard this, he couldn't help but sigh deeply in his heart. Jia Yan is Jia Yan. The mind of a senior domain master is broader than that of ordinary domain masters like them. Even such traitor enemies are treated so kindly. From this point of view, those who follow Jia Yan have done nothing wrong. At least he is a nostalgic and emotional person. If Jia Yan heard what he said, he would probably shake his head and smile bitterly. This is just because Jia Yan thought about life for a while, and happened to be more generous at this point, otherwise he would definitely not care what the black sheep skeleton was used for. In fact, it is quite a pity. A domain lord level skeleton is a great treasure to many creatures. Even if it is not used by oneself, selling it to the outside world is a huge income. Of course, if Jia Yan's words are released, no one will dare to contradict him. From a distance, the dolphin creature felt a little depressed when he saw people from the Zerg Queen's force running into the starry sky to gather the bones of the black sheep. His idea of using the corpse as a urinal seemed to be unfeasible. But this kind of thing is not a big loss to him. After all, in addition to losing a lot of soldiers this time, he was able to save a life, which is already a good result. In the future, this Zerg Queen force must not be provoked. This Jia Yan, haha, a fighting type domain lord who is equivalent to a senior domain lord? Go back and search for news about fighting type domain lords. From Gaia, from the look on your face, you must not be that simple. He has made preparations to maintain a relatively good relationship with the Zerg Queen in the future. Even if he suffers some losses, he must have good dealings with this force. The forces in the central star field of the Milky Way are such existences that adapt to the wind. They will not have the pride and persistence of many external forces and strong people in the force itself, because the external forces and strong people can play high-spirited things. But in the central star field of the Milky Way, there are many strong people. If you dare to play with your moral integrity, it is an act of seeking death. This kind of thing has both advantages and disadvantages. A strong person in the outside world can live more like a strong person. Even a star-level person can live like a strong person in the barren star field. God, no matter how high the status is, you can achieve it. But they are spiritually satisfied and morally satisfied, but they cannot continue to pursue strength and go further on the road to becoming strong, so which one is better depends on their own ideas. The two battles in this nascent galaxy have already affected the hearts of a large number of powerful forces from the outside world. Many spies were already lingering around the outside world when a large number of powerful troops from the Dolphin Force entered the chaotic galaxy. Get first-hand information and information. However, what shocked them was that they thought that there were only two Zerg Queen forces, either destroyed or defecting to the Dolphin forces, but when the real results came out, everyone was shocked. What's going on? Why did the Dolphin Force withdraw from this galaxy in disgrace? Where are the black sheep? And where are the strong men from the old Zerg Queen's force? None of them are seen. Looking at them, they look like they've been defeated, but that's not possible. The Zerg Queen's forces are now defeated, and it's simply impossible to resist the powerful combination of dolphins and black sheep. Not to mention the current Zerg Queen's force. Back then, the Zerg Queen's force, which had entered this place from outside, was unable to withstand any force in our starry sky. It even gradually lost its troops here and even lost the last force. With all her strength wasted on us, how could she still have the possibility of making a comeback? No. This information is quite wrong. What is going on? I'm going to ask the dolphin now. If he doesn't tell me, it means there is definitely something wrong. When the troops of the Dolphin Force retreated in despair from the nascent galaxy, a large number of the leaders of the force who had obtained the intelligence from the spies were completely confused. Then, many force spies and secret passages between their respective forces were connected. Many letters of inquiry were received at Dolphin. Those guys, really one or two, can't sit still. The Dolphins have long known that all these guys will come to ask about the result of their battle. The Zerg Queen's force is like a fragrant steamed bun. They all want to take a bite, but they are all afraid of breaking their teeth. Now that the strongest existence in the area has taken action, they are worried and want to see the results. Now that the result really appeared, and it was different from what they imagined, these very curious forces suddenly started asking. In this starry sky force, it can be said that every force has a backer, and the intricate relationship makes it almost impossible for everyone to destroy each other. Even the dolphin, he has recently tried to slowly eliminate it, spending hundreds of dollars. Over the past 80 years, one family after another was slowly annexed. Originally, the Zerg Queen's force was a good supplement. If he could be supplemented by strong men from this damaged force, his own force might be able to have the chance to fulfill his dreams. But now that the opportunity is no longer available, he can only find another way. So, can I borrow a knife to kill people? There is actually a senior domain lord among the Zerg Queen's forces. None of these forces know about its existence. I took advantage of this information gap to encourage them to attack the Zerg. Will the Queen's power allow Jia Yan to eliminate some of them so that I can benefit? Otherwise, the loss this time will be too great. Dolphin is still a little heartbroken about the losses caused by the conflict between him and the Zerg Queen, because if there is no loss, it is for his life. If we really talk about it, the human losses and material losses this time it was unprecedentedly large, and he didn't even make any supplements after the war, which could be said to have caused his strength to drop out of thin air. Of course, the biggest loss is that Lord Gaia is already a little angry. If you really ask for something in the future, you may not get a response at all. This is so uncomfortable. No. I can't plot against Jia Yan anymore. Otherwise, with his ability that even Lord Gaia dares not offend, how can he spare me? Suddenly, the dolphin creature woke up with a start. Then I almost broke into a cold sweat. He realized that his thoughts just now were playing with fire. What kind of strength and identity did Jia Yan have? He actually wanted to plot against him again. Why was he killing someone with a borrowed knife? This is just like asking for death. If Jia Yan understands, he can kill himself with just one slap. Damn it, I can't be so reckless in the future. I have to think carefully about how to deal with strong people. I'm afraid I haven't done this well. Even Lord Gaia is so angry that I stay away from me. Is it right to act like this again? If there is something good for strong people in the central star field of the Milky Way, it is that they will consider a lot of interpersonal relationships. To put it bluntly, in these things, they can also find a lot of insights into people and behavior, so that they can on some level, strengthen your own mind. As a domain lord, the dolphin creature was naturally not too bad. After flashing his plan and using Jia Yan to borrow a knife to kill people, he suddenly woke up and gave up quickly in a cold sweat. Afterwards, after thinking about it for a while, he called a subordinate. After giving these instructions for a few words, the subordinate became more frightened as he listened, and then left with some hesitation. Not long after, in the land of Zerg Queen's power, Jia Yan saw this mid-level subordinate of Dolphin Galaxy who had returned. Lord Jia Yan, my Lord Dolphin asked me to come here to ask you. There are many outside forces who want to inquire about the information about this battle. I wonder what you want, sir. That's right, Dolphin actually sent someone directly to ask Jia Yan what he meant. Everything in this way was decided by Jia Yan. If Jia Yan wanted to reveal his strength and identity, it was Jia Yan's own business. If Jia Yan didn't want to say it, then he would remain silent and no one would ask. Revealed the slightest information about Jia Yan. In this way, there should be no possibility of the dolphin creature offending Jia Yan. Oh! This dolphin is very strict in his work. Regarding this matter, let him tell the truth to the outside world. Just say that I am the subspace domain master who asked all the forces outside a few days ago. Thanks to the external forces for their replies, I have found the Zerg Queen force, and if I have the opportunity in the future, I will visit these forces one by one to express my gratitude. Jia Yan said calmly, and the dolphin subordinate was suddenly startled. Help! Not talking about all the forces at that time, everyone knew where the Zerg Queen's power was. At least a small half of the forces knew, but they did not tell Jia Yan the information. Is this help? That's not right. So Jia Yan wants to thank you. I'm afraid you're not looking for trouble. Yes, thank you Master Jia Yan for your reply. I will go and explain your answer to Master Dolphin now. Excuse me. This mid-level galaxy creature didn't dare to question Jia Yan's words when he came to Shiyuan. He just bowed respectfully and quickly left with the news. It's just that he doesn't know whether the news he brings out during his outing this time will cause all the forces in the outside world to stir up waves like a stone and cause everyone to panic. In short, Jia Yan doesn't care what the outside world is like. When he released the above news, it was indeed a certain attitude. He is saying, this senior domain master is angry, and not in an ordinary way, especially those who know the information but don't tell it. In the future, if they can't tell, they will come to trouble you. Jia Yan is actually not that angry, but God knows if this kind of attitude thing is true. As long as the matter spreads out, he feels that in the future, the tributes from those forces who admit their mistakes will not be cut off. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2430. It just so happened that the supplies on Edisha were all used up to buy healing resources for the Zerg Queen. It was also a good thing to have external supplies to replenish them. What? Is this robbery? Isn't that right? I am a powerful person with a senior domain lord level. I have been psychologically injured. Isn't it normal for them to make some small compensation? Otherwise, it would be very embarrassing for a senior domain owner who dared not fight back after being deceived, So spending a small amount of money to eliminate the disaster would already make him pregnant. Jia Yan makes a lot of sense. Of course, the one most affected by this matter was the dolphin creature. For this leader who almost caused the disintegration of the Zerg Queen's power, Jia Yan was also bewitched by the black sheep, and it did not have much real impact. In addition, after all, he gave Gaia face and chose not to kill him. However, the penalty of death cannot be avoided. Jia Yan asked him to compensate the Queen of Zerg for mental damages, which was not only the largest amount, but also the most horrific exploitation of her power in the future. It can be said that as long as he paid compensation, if this force wants to raise dolphin creatures, other subordinates will be very embarrassed in the future. Of course, if they completely exploit their subordinates, it will be impossible for this force to win over people's hearts. As for the dolphins themselves, they will give up later. It depends on him whether he chooses to dismiss most of his subordinates or find other ways to make money if he has a large amount of training materials for himself. Anyway, the power of the Zerg Queen, plus Jia Yan himself, have made a profit this time. Actually, I don't really want these harvests. If the Zerg Queen and others want it, I can accept nothing, but after thinking about it, they are not willing to let me receive nothing. Jia Yan's words were somewhat sincere. It's too easy for him to make money. Didn't you see that after leaving the North Star, his audacious star gradually couldn't let go of his belongings? For a senior domain owner, wealth is sometimes just a number. But if he doesn't want it, the people in the Zerg Queen's force may think that after Jia Yan helps them this time, he will draw a clear line with the Zerg Queen's force, which will cause panic. Sometimes it's not easy to be a strong person, haha. Jia Yan swore that he really didn't want any wealth, just a little bit. Cough. Jia Yan just stayed here to rest and recuperate with the people from the Zerg Queen's force in this newly born chaotic galaxy. Compared with the fearful lurking of the Zerg Queen's forces before, they don't have to worry so much this time. Everyone is making full adjustments, including the seriously injured Jia Yan, who is mobilizing supplies for them to try their best to recover. Therefore, everyone's repair speed is still very fast. However, they are relatively calm here, and the rumors about this place from the outside world have become more and more intense. Jia Yan, the mysterious strong man who originally asked about the Zerg Queen's power among outside forces, actually reappeared in the nascent galaxy where the Zerg Queen's power was hidden. Moreover, he was also a member of the original Zerg Queen's power. In the past few years, an existence named Jia Yan has been promoted to the level of Senior Domain Lord. After these words were heard by many forces, one or two of those forces fell silent. Don't talk about anything else, it's just that dolphins spread that Lord Gaia showed up in that battle, but in the end he had to betray Jia Yan. All the powerful people and high-ranking officials who heard about this were completely shocked. Shocking. Because they cannot understand how strong Jia Yan is, or they can doubt what the dolphin creature said, but if the matter involves Gaia, it will be different. After all, ordinary people would not dare to steal Gaia's name. If they did, Gaia and the forces affiliated with him would come looking for him, and it might be a disaster. And now that Gaia has come forward, this matter is absolutely true. Even Lord Gaia dare not touch the strong man, which is enough to prove his true strength. For a time, the forces in all directions shook up and down. The forces that were already in awe of the mysterious and powerful man in space suddenly became even more afraid of Jia Yan. Also, the remnants of the Zerg Queen's forces, which they had previously regarded as their favorites, have also become incompetent. Forget about the existence of an abacus. Oh? Is the Queen of Zerg ready to come out and meet me? Okay, I haven't seen her for a few days, so it's time to have a good chat. On this day, Jia Yan received a message from a powerful healer who flew out of the Edicious star, saying that the Queen of the Zerg was preparing to meet him. At this time, he was helping to plan how the Zerg Queen's forces would use the strange-shaped planet that the Zerg Queen had reluctantly used her great ability to gather together the surrounding fragments of interstellar matter to create the new core of the Zerg Queen's force. Energy Circle. I happened to have no clue, because Jia Yan was a novice with little experience in this area, so I happened to meet the Zerg Queen, and maybe she would have some constructive insights. Not long after, the female creature that was promised slowly flew out of the subspace step by step with the same graceful steps as always. The existence of the Territory Lord can originally move in the subspace, but it cannot move quickly and deep into the depths. Therefore, the Zerg Queen can fly out of the subspace by herself without Jia Yan's help. Jia Yan has been waiting for a semi-permanent subspace rift that was torn open by Jia Yan for a long time. Hello, Queen of the Zerg, it seems that your recovery is going well, so I feel relieved. After only a few days of recovery, the Zerg Queen had already repaired a large number of damaged injuries. Even though her brainwave power was still in disarray, at least from the outside, her injuries seemed as if they did not exist and she had recovered. The same demeanor as before. A smile appeared on her face, which resembled that of a peerless woman on earth. Speaking of which, I have to thank Mr. Jia Yan for giving me the healing materials. I didn't expect that Mr. Jia Yan could actually get what I had always dreamed of. Those materials, I'm afraid any one of them is worth a lot of money. Jia Yan shook his head. Actually, to me, these things are not worth much money, let alone if they can help you, the Queen. What does this little thing mean? The Zerg Queen seemed a little unaccustomed to the current relationship between the two parties. After thinking about it, she flew into the depths of the universe with Jia Yan, avoiding the surrounding subordinates who seemed not to want to eavesdrop, but kept their ears pricked up. You should call me your Lady Queen, Lord Jia Yan. With your current strength, you can just call me by my name. No, the Queen of the Zerg is the Queen of the Zerg. This will never change, whether it was before, now, or in the future. You have been a blessing to me, Jia Yan, and you have also helped a lot, so it should be respectfully. I will not give up. This is a matter of principle for me as a person. Please don't continue to force me, Your Majesty the Queen. Jia Yan didn't dare to say, everyone calls you the Queen of the Zerg, even the enemies call you the Queen of the Zerg, so I seem to have forgotten your real name. Even if the Queen of the Zerg didn't have a womanly temper, she would have punched her own chest with her little fists. So Jia Yan opened her mouth and blocked her mouth with questions about human principles. The Zerg Queen took a deep look at Jia Yan, and then looked away inadvertently. Yeah, it's a matter of principle as a human being. Well, since you want to call me that, then fine, but I won't call you Jia Yan anymore, but I will call you Jia Yan, because after all, he is a much more powerful territory lord than me, and I will show the respect I deserve. This is a matter of principle for me, Master Jia Yan, won't you refuse? Of course I won't refuse this. The Zerg Queen calls herself Lord Jia Yan, and Jia Yan doesn't resist at all, because everyone else calls her that way. If the Zerg Queen doesn't call her, maybe other people in the Zerg Queen's influence think there is a special relationship between the two of them. I, Jia Yan, have a wife and children. If such rumors spread, I will lose face. It's just that Jia Yan didn't notice that after the relationship between the two parties was established and they were both called adults and seemed less cordial, the Zerg Queen's meaningful feeling towards him quickly disappeared. This feeling, it was even so subtle that Jia Yan didn't notice it. The straight man Jia Yan didn't understand the charm at all. He and the Zerg Queen were flying in the deep place of the universe while chatting about something casually. Both of them were strong men at the domain lord level. They could fly millions of kilometers just by flying. Going out, and the strength is quite similar. Jia Yandu occasionally regrets that if his wife Satsuma Temple has the domain lord level, the couple can travel together in the sea of stars like this. What a happy scene it would be. It's a pity that my wife's strength is much weaker than I thought. Even if Jia Yan doesn't intervene, maybe she will die in less than 1,000 years in the future. Jia Yan's lifespan is very long. If he did not die naturally, his senior domain master strength would be enough to support his strength to reach more than 10,000 years before he died, and this does not include his repeated evolutionary mutations. Making the genes more and more perfect, the lifespan may be much longer than those of the same level. Jia Yan's thoughts drifted to the sky. Lord Jia Yan, although I can't talk about repaying you, you also know that the reason why the dolphin guy and the black sheep are targeting our power is that in addition to annexing our strong men, there is another very important thing. Yes, that is because we want certain materials from our power. These materials are only effective for senior domain and mid-level domain masters. For other powerful people, they are poison. I don't know if you can use them. Why don't I just leave this supply to you? The Queen of the Zerg suddenly mentioned this matter when Jia Yan was wandering in the world. Oh? The so-called high-end materials? No, Dolphin said, these materials may be extremely valuable, and they may not be usable if they are given to me. It is better to leave them to you. Jia Yan waved his hand quickly, otherwise if he accepted such valuable things after helping others, others might suspect his motives. Master Jia Yan, if this kind of material is left in our hands, it will definitely not be easy to sell. On the contrary, it may bring disaster to our lives. Take it. You have given our power a helping hand, which is almost equivalent to saving us once, a life-saving grace. These materials are not qualified to repay, but we don't have more. This, well, leave it to me. I will return more supplies to you in the future. Jia Yan sighed helplessly and nodded. Speaking of which, Jia Yan still doesn't know what those supplies are, but since it's such an important thing, it's hard to sell it. It's probably that outsiders know they have it and have come knocking on their door a long time ago, so they might as well get it themselves. I am a senior subspace talented domain master. Although I have never encountered the existence of an intermediate domain master, others say that it is difficult for an intermediate domain master to catch me, so it is most appropriate for me to keep such things. Okay, I will have people transport the supplies to your Edisha planet later. By the way, Mr. Jia Yan, in recent days, we have restored a lot of vitality on your Edisha planet. So this time I am going to withdraw all the personnel and restore the tranquility of Edisha's star to you. Of course, you don't have to worry about the healing environment. I will build the energy circle immediately, but I hope you can help me, so it will be faster. A little. Oh, do you want to come out? That's fine. The Edisha star is filled with my system energy and the subspace environment is not the best healing condition for you. If the Queen has the ability to create another come from the energy circle, that's the best. Jia Yan nodded in understanding. And when it comes to energy circles, he is still very interested. The energy circle of the Zerg Queen is quite strange even in the central star field of the Milky Way. At least for so long, he has not seen another strong person who can do something similar. Moreover, his subspace talent is very strong, but each talent has its own powerful method. At least the Zerg Queen's life talent, in a certain level, is not inferior to the subspace talent at all. Of course, she is stronger in another area. Level. In terms of vitality and resilience, the life talent can be said to be one of the best. The Queen of the Zerg is just not strong enough. If she were strong enough, her vitality would be so tenacious that even beings a small level above her would not be able to kill her. This is also the reason why the Zerg Queen was nearly invincible in her hometown. Because Xiao Qian can't be beaten to death. Jia Yan even thought that the reason why the Zerg Queen could recover so quickly this time was because of the high-level resources she provided. The other thing was that she had super strong recovery ability. In addition, he remembered that the Zerg Queen was watching. After Jia Yan collects the highest grade healing medicine, telling her these things can even help her go one step further. I'm afraid this is true. Therefore, the improvement in strength of the Zerg Queen in the future is worth looking forward to. Jia Yan has long said that he understands the talent of the Zerg Queen, and he even hopes that in the future, there will be someone who can grow up with him on the road to becoming a strong person, and in the end, he can often chat and talk freely during his almost infinite lifespan the presence. Looking at his friends, they are either lacking in strength, have a bad relationship, or their talents are not up to standard, so after a final look at them, this close friend must be the Queen. Text download address. Phone reading. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2431. Chatting at the domain lord level is not limited to a certain amount of time. The two of them can fly freely, that is hundreds of millions of kilometers, and they can chat for several days. From the initial meeting to later experiences, the Zerg the Queen said that after Jia Yan left, the Black Sheep rebelled and various forces pursued him. Jia Yan talked about how after he left, he wanted to work hard and go to the most dangerous black hole area, and how he saw the huge outside of the black hole area. Barrier, how to hear the voice of Tai Shang, how to take risks in the superstar, and finally become stronger. The experiences both sides talked about were eye-opening to each other. Jia Yan's courageous spirit and his past as a fighting domain lord made the Zerg Queen's eyes look at Jia Yan once again filled with some kind of weird feeling. The expression, just this expression, after Jia Yan talked about his family again, he hid it again and entered the deepest place. Not long afterward, the two parties who finally finished chatting quietly returned to the place where their power was. Okay, in the days to come, you will practice well and heal your wounds. I will wait until you move your power to other stars. After all, here, you have been stained with too many grievances. I don't know, Queen of the Zerg, you have already had some comparisons. Is there a good location? Jia Yan finally asked the Zerg Queen calmly. The Zerg Queen pondered for a while, then shook her head with a wry smile. There is no suitable place. I won't be afraid of making fun of you if I tell you. Since we penetrated deep into the central star field of the Milky Way, we have been entangled in battles and grievances. We don't think of any place at all. It's suitable for a long-term stay. Is there any place in Jia Yan that's worth staying? Jia Yan was startled for a moment, and then he thought of the peaceful starry sky he had developed. Although he left hastily, he did not leave any dangerous factors behind, so even if he left, the Yin-Yang sect should still exist there. But then I thought again, the peaceful star territory where the Yin-Yang sect is located, that place belongs to the edge of the Milky Way. The Zerg Queen and the others are already capable of occupying a place to survive in the edge. Presumably, if they are allowed to go to the edge, they should not. Yes, even if you are willing, you will definitely want to enter the depths of the central star field of the Milky Way in the future. Rather than that, he might as well not say anything. But thinking of the Yin-Yang sect, Jia Yan suddenly missed it again. As his unreliable founder, now that he has the ability, shouldn't he go back and take a look? I don't have a very good place, but Her Majesty the Queen, don't think too much. If you think this place is better, I can also help you integrate here. But there are still too many conflicting possibilities in the future. Maybe let me destroy all the forces here? First of all, let's not say whether it is possible. Just say that there will be a lot of trouble in the future, so it is unlikely. Of course I can't let you do this, Jia Yan. I found that you came back this time, but you started to look down on us. After all, we are the ones who got here on our own. If you keep looking down on us like this, I will be angry. The Zerg Queen unexpectedly showed a little temper. Jia Yan was startled, then shook his head. Then let's do this for now. Don't worry if you can't think of a solution for a while. As long as I am still in the power, the people in the power will not be in too much danger. There is no way. Think slowly. Starting from this day, the Zerg Queen's forces entered a rapid recovery period. Even though the Zerg Queen's forces, which were not weak in the first place, have lost about 2/3 of their strength, all that are left are masters. After careful screening, the traitors on the Black Sheep side will still be able to survive. The strong men in the sect's returning force were requisitioned again after some punishment. Those who could no longer be used were either killed or exiled from the force. As for how they would live in the future, the Zerg Queen force could not control it. Yes. All in all, the Zerg Queen's force has returned to about half of its strength during the period of total victory. Of course, the one who contributed the most is the Zerg Queen herself. As long as she is still there, the high-end combat power of the Zerg Queen's force will be not too weak. Jia Yan cannot be counted. Everyone knows that Jia Yan will not stay in the Zerg Queen force for a long time in the future. It's not that Jia Yan also wants to betray and look down on the Zerg Queen's power, it's actually because the current Zerg Queen's power has long been unable to keep up with the footsteps of a senior domain lord. Reluctantly following Jia Yan will only become a drag on him. It's just an oil bottle. The greatest probability is that due to various power and worldly affairs, instead of helping Jia Yan progress in terms of resources and strength, it will gradually slow down his improvement speed. So everyone knows that Jia Yan will definitely leave the Zerg Queen force. Now that he has not said it publicly, it has proven that even if he leaves in the future, he will come back to see his old friends from time to time. This has made the remaining Zerg Queen force extremely happy. As long as there is such a senior domain master, even if he will not be in the Zerg Queen's power most of the time, he can definitely intimidate many Xiao Xiao. Buzz. Finally, one day after a month passed, a sharp cry sounded in this newborn galaxy. A huge round energy object suddenly pushed away the surrounding nebula material, as if some prehistoric beast had swallowed up large swaths of nebulae, clearing out a clean starry sky. And in this starry sky, floating in the patchwork of planets, the appearance of it has changed drastically. It no longer has such an embarrassing and hastily made feeling, but has become well proportioned, with big edges and corners. It shows the artificial traces of buildings and scenery. In particular, architects use natural shapes to depict various parts of the planet as both natural and artificial scenery, as if adding a magical touch to the uncanny workmanship of nature. The pen is simply the finishing touch. It's done, our Zerg Queen's force energy circle has appeared again. And this time Master Jia Yan has added subspace traces in it. It will become more difficult to break into our energy circle in the future, ha ha ha. Long live Lord Jia Yan, long live the Zerg Queen. It's been a long time, several years, and I have forgotten the feeling of being in the energy circle. I didn't expect to see the Queen's energy circle again. Alas, life is unpredictable. I think a month ago, we were together. I don't know whether I will live or die. How can I imagine that I can see the energy circle again in a month, and everyone has recovered their injuries and strength? It is really touching. All the old foot soldiers of the Zerg Queen's force, one or two, felt quite happy about the scene before them. Even newcomers who joined the Zerg Queen's force later and did not have much affection for the energy circle were affected by the atmosphere and felt that the current scene was a sign of the revival of the Zerg Queen's force. Of course, the most exciting thing is Jia Yan's existence. Over the past month, even if the words Senior Domain Lord were still unfamiliar to them at the beginning, the members of the forces who did not understand the meaning have now understood the meaning of these two words. Even if they are on the internet, if they say that there are senior domain masters in their own forces, the netizens who had quarreled or had a fight with these tribesmen will instantly become silent and will no longer dare to say anything nonsense. This made all the members of the Zerg Queen's force understand how terrifying a senior domain lord is, and in the process of understanding the meaning of a senior domain lord, they also learned that after the subspace talent reaches the domain lord, the same it causes other people of the same level an extremely headache, especially at the senior level of domain lord. Under certain conditions, even a mid-level domain lord will be extremely afraid of a senior domain lord with subspace talent. Now, After understanding how terrifying Jia Yan's existence was and how powerful he was, everyone in the Zerg Queen's force felt instantly drifting away. They almost ignored the central star field of the Milky Way, which they originally considered to be quite dangerous. It happened that everyone in the nearby starry sky knew that the Zerg Queen's force had a senior domain master coming, and they started to pay attention to the Zerg Queen's force. People are extremely respected, which further breeds everyone's self-confidence. Of course, they still didn't forget to do what they needed to do. For example, the energy circle that had been repaired for a month today began to be constructed rapidly with the support of a large amount of resources. Some of these supplies were provided by Jia Yan, and the larger part were compensated by a large number of local forces from the outside world. There is compensation agreed upon by the outside world, and those from the Zerg Queen's forces would be fools if they still don't want it. Fortunately, Jia Yan himself is in the Zerg Queen's force, and from time to time he meets with powerful outside forces who come to test the situation. Every time he shocks the other party and makes them run away, he can receive full compensation. As for the power of the dolphin creature, it was Jia Yan and the others who demanded the largest share of compensation, and they did not dare to talk nonsense. They directly satisfied all the demands and delivered them as soon as possible, which made Jia Yan and the others extremely satisfied. This is because the dolphin creature has personally seen Lord Gaia's slightly humble attitude towards Jia Yan, which even made another senior territory lord bow his head. As an ordinary territory lord, can he still resist? Therefore, under this rapid resource compensation, Jia Yan also warned the Zerg Queen not to be stingy and try to use the best resources, so soon with the help of the Zerg Queen's own talent, her unique skill energy circle was made. Thank you, Lord Jia Yan. Seeing that the entire atmosphere around her, even the energy had changed to resemble that of her former hometown, and of course the energy was several times stronger than that of her hometown, the Zerg Queen couldn't help but smile. You're welcome. It's your talent, Queen, that never ceases to amaze me no matter how many times I see it. It's so amazing. Jia Yan sighed. He originally thought that by helping with the construction of the Zerg Queen, he might be able to draw some lessons from it in the future and do similar things. But after helping throughout the whole process, Jia Yan found that it was impossible for him to imitate a cat and create a similar energy circle. Because this is someone's talent, the talent of life is constantly released during the manufacturing process, and then various energies are calculated and proportioned to be transformed into a shield within the energy circle, and then quickly and at a certain calculated time, replenish it to the inside of the energy circle, only then will everything be considered complete. Not to mention anything else, Jia Yan can't do this first step of life talent, let alone the subsequent energy conversion. Master Jia Yan, there is no need to marvel at it. It's just my talent. In fact, during this period of time, I have also observed Master Jia Yan's abilities and talents, and then I tried to figure out how you can use your yin and yang dao to create something similar energy circle. I feel that the energy circle you created using positive and negative forces will probably not be weaker than my life force energy circle. It will even be more terrifying because of the extreme energy. However, it may be too extreme and not suitable for cultivating other energies and energy circles. A talented person will only be suitable for you practitioners of yin and yang dao. If Master Jia Yan is interested, I can give you this idea. Oh! Her Majesty the Queen has actually done such a thing, she is really talented, and I am willing to admit it. If you have time, please give me this idea. If one day I can make a similar energy circle, I will definitely thank Her Majesty the Queen again. After hearing the Zerg Queen's reply, Jia Yan suddenly became very interested. At the same time, he couldn't help but feel inferior to the Zerg Queen's intelligence. The construction of the energy circle during this period made him understand one thing, that is, he should not compare with the Zerg Queen in terms of intelligence, and even in terms of knowledge. If Jia Yan hadn't had a period of fierce fighting in the North Superstar, the two sides might not have been able to talk about many topics. Fortunately, Jia Yan has a lot of knowledge in the North Superstar, which is actually one level higher than that of the galaxy's central star region. It is layered, so it can reduce the dimensionality of the attack. Otherwise, in many cases, it will be crushed and rubbed by the Zerg Queen. Now that she was stronger, she calmly observed Jia Yan's performance when helping to create the energy circle, and then gave a calculation. How could such a strong person not be scary? Master Jia Yan has extraordinary abilities. I just give you the idea. Even if I don't give it to you, you will definitely be able to think of it yourself in the future. It's just a matter of analogy. In addition, Master Jia Yan doesn't have to think about this energy circle. It's difficult to do. From my calculations, if you want to do it, I'm afraid it won't take long to produce it as long as you have the resources in place. The Zerg Queen didn't have anything to hide. With a swipe of her foot, Jia Yan received a message from Ji Now, saying that he had received a report. Just open it and take a look. Jia Yan is a little overwhelmed. It is full of calculation formulas and various conjectures. It is said that it is by analogy, but I am afraid it will take a lot of time to read and understand this knowledge. Forget it, let's leave it for now, it's useless to create the energy circle now. Jia Yan smiled and restrained his intelligence. After saying goodbye to the Zerg Queen with a meaningful look, Jia Yan took a deep look at the strong man outside who had restored normal order, and then he returned to the subspace. Text download address. Phone reading. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2432. The energy circle has been created, and the Zerg Queen has the ability to sail long distances. Moreover, their strength has also recovered one by one. Some even made breakthroughs due to the war, such as Zykan. I said a few days ago gave him some resources available to the Territory Lord, and he almost broke through to the Territory Lord. With the qualifications of the Territory Lord, in other words, in a few years, the power of the Zerg Queen will definitely reappear a Territory Lord. Speaking of which, in the center of the galaxy the Star Territory is indeed a place for training your strength. As long as you have talent, you can indeed improve your strength here faster than the outside world. Jia Yan landed on the Edessa star. Master, the supplies sent by the Queen and others are almost moldy. Do you want to use them? Editha needs to store them in low temperature. Edisha leapt up and circled back and forth around Jia Yan. Supplies. Oh, I would have forgotten if you didn't tell me. The supplies that Her Majesty the Queen told me to give to me last time can only be used by powerful domain lords, but they are still missing. Should I store them first? Forget it, I'd better take a look. Jia Yan actually doesn't have much thought about the so-called high-end materials, because he doesn't have much interest in such materials. After all, he is a person who has been to Biostar. After leaving Beijing, he always feels that it is difficult to obtain supplies from the outside world. To the extent of the northern superstar. This is indeed a bit underestimating the outside world. Jia Yan knows that he cannot think like this, but in fact, he can only encounter very inferior materials every time in the outside world, which makes him think this way more subconsciously. He didn't even think much of the supplies this time, so he didn't care about them before and just let Edissa leave them alone. Now that I think about it, let's take a look. Editha screamed, and asked a large number of robots to deliver a large number of material samples. It turned out to be things like mushrooms and giant star cores. Mushrooms. So big. This area is at least 1 or 2 kilometers wide. On a planet, ordinary creatures can live on it. It's really exaggerated. Jia Yan felt strange when he saw the mushrooms among them, but this kind of thing is not uncommon in the universe, so after being surprised, he didn't think much about it. He stretched out his mouthparts and gently penetrated the mushroom, feeling the power inside. What's going on? This power is so strong. Then Jia Yan was shocked. He felt a feeling that he only felt when enjoying supplies in the North Star. The powerful power washed his body, and even this power was so strong that his body, which is now equivalent to the senior domain lord level, could not bear it. It's so scary. Stop for a moment and wait until I'm ready. Jia Yan quickly pulled out his own needle, and then his eyes became cloudy and uncertain. Master, how about these supplies? Adisha watched for a long time and asked involuntarily when she saw Jia Yan taking some time off. Fortunately, I didn't expect that there are still some good treasures in the outer starry sky. No wonder those forces want to snatch them. They are stronger than most of the materials I have used in the North Star. It seems that I have underestimated the world. Jia Yan shook his head. Edisha, send them to my palace. I'll try to see if they can be absorbed now. I feel that after using them, they will help me a little. Of course, today's I have just been promoted not long ago, so taking the energy doesn't have much effect anymore. Once I finish trying it, you can seal them up and then take them out to increase my strength when I can practice. Okay. Even Jia Yan felt the power of surprise, and Edisha ordered the robots to transport it to the palace. Don't think that Jia Yan is making Edissa busy in vain. Little light and shadow Mosquito has nothing to do in Edissa's star. He just instructs the robot to move this and transport that every day. If you don't find something for it to do, maybe Edisha will be bored to death. After a while, Jia Yan waited for the first batch of supplies in the palace, and then Aditha wisely did not disturb Jia Yan and ran outside to continue modifying the Disha star. These materials, if I am not mistaken, they should be treasure-like materials on some planets. For example, mushrooms like this, in my opinion, are the best treasures on the planet, and these are not the most advanced ones. The senior ones are probably as old as me. Jia Yan judged from the vitality on the mushroom that this material must be relatively common among the same materials, and the best one was probably bigger. A 50-kilometer-long mushroom could really exist in a city of ordinary life. Jia Yan regrets that he is already a domain lord-level creature, and he won't be able to see anything interesting if he goes to such a planet, because he is too strong and too big, and if he uses a clone, it will not be so immersive. Otherwise, you must go to a similar strange planet to see the scenery. So, am I missing the northern superstar? Haha. No wonder many alien creatures in the northern superstar will miss it after leaving the northern superstar, and then go there again, and some even I will stay like this in Biostar until I die of old age. Jia Yan suddenly realized that Biostar is really a place that attracts strong people. As long as a strange strong person is strong enough to live there, he will adapt to that environment. After all, in that kind of place, it is difficult for a strong person to survive. You can recognize it by your appearance. If you want to hide your strength, others will not know who you are. The biggest advantage is that in that kind of place, you are of average size and can enjoy an ordinary life and see ordinary beauty like ordinary creatures. Speaking of it, strong people are actually quite mean. Do you want to pursue strength while also yearning for an ordinary life? If you think about it carefully, I am the same way, haha. Jia Yan smiled bitterly. He would not deny that he missed life on Bioshan, but at the same time he felt that he was cheap for wanting to go there. After all, it was not his hometown, and it was not a place worthy of nostalgia, but he longed for the many beauties there. I always have the urge to turn around and go back to the black hole area. Fortunately, Jia Yan did not turn his impulse into action. He knew that after all, he did not belong to the superstar, but a creature from the Orion Arm. Even if he did not return to the Orion Arm often, he could not forget his roots. Besides, when he went to the superstar, wouldn't he become one of the native creatures in the superstar? It feels like a pity to only think about things in the superstar like that. No matter what the outside world says, it is the real vast universe. Superstars can go, for example, when their strength is about to break through again, or when they want to go on vacation and live the life of ordinary creatures, or when they want to find supplies. Apart from the above possibilities, I can't go any further. I want to go there, because I can't regard it as too beautiful a place, nor can I let it become a very important place, otherwise I will subconsciously make a judgment in favor of that kind of place. In fact, starry sky is worth my while. There are many, many places. Jia Yan looked at the giant mushroom in front of him and smiled immediately. That's right, for example, the mother planet where this mushroom is located, he has never seen a similar planet before, and there are more planets with strong people. He is not even sure that there is no such thing as a giant star in the outer starry sky. Planet, although the four giants are destined to be the center of the entire galaxy, black holes are everywhere in the galaxy, and there are still many strong ones. Maybe some strong ones will create similar ones near a certain big black hole. What about the superstars? Even if it's not that scary, the effects are not the same, but aren't those strange things one of the secrets that Jia Yan wants to explore in his adventure? Go to a superstar to live your life and retire? That's not what Jia Yan wants. One of his original intentions when flying out of the Earth, besides becoming stronger, is to explore the mysteries of the entire space. If he goes to retire on a giant star, it would be putting the cart before the horse. Speaking of which, why do I think so much? Suddenly, Jia Yan was startled. He usually doesn't think randomly at all, but he suddenly did so just now. Jia Yan suddenly realized something. He turned his eyes to the large mushroom in front of him and understood something. Is that what this mushroom is for? Hallucinogenic. Or some other effect? This is very similar to the toxicity of mushrooms on Earth. The only difference is that this mushroom is effective even for senior domain masters like him. No wonder they say that only relatively strong territory lords, or even medium territory lords, can use this mushroom. Even if I use it even a little bit, it affects my mood. Maybe I really can't use it. The level is too high. Well, looking at it this way, I really underestimated the heroes of the world. The materials in the outside world are not necessarily much weaker than those in the superstars, but the quantity will be smaller. Jia Yan followed the same train of thought and continued to think for a while before eliminating the hallucinogenic effect of the mushrooms. It is said that it can influence him, but it is used very little. In addition, no matter how weak he is still a being whose strength is equivalent to that of a senior domain lord. It is impossible for problems to arise just because of such a small amount of supplies. In fact, he is still a bit weak, because he said he is equivalent to a senior domain master, but in fact he is just a newly promoted domain master, and his physique is not as strong as that of a real senior domain master. Even the largest his weakness is his mental side. If he were a senior domain master, he might not be so easily affected by mushrooms. Anyway, I have nothing to do. I can try to see if I can use this mushroom to cultivate in these days. As for other supplies, I won't look at them for the time being. Jia Yan restrained his thoughts and looked at other supplies. If he couldn't solve the first one, the next one wouldn't be that simple either. On the other hand, the Zerg Queen and the others were lucky enough to have obtained so many supplies that only strong men could use. It seemed that the successful method was not that easy, but Jia Yan didn't want to ask. Even their own power was about to be destroyed. Well, shouldn't harvesting these materials be a matter of course? Buzz buzz. In the palace, Jia Yan gradually entered the state, while Edisha from the outside world was responsible for the operation of the Edisha star and its communication with the outside world. It even made its own decision to let the Edisha star follow slowly. A shifting circle of energy that begins to move. because this is the right given to it by Jia Yan. Edisha is an auxiliary intelligence, not just a toy. It has a strong sense of self-judgment. Don't think that now that Jia Yan is powerful, Edisha can't make any decisions. In fact, there are many things it can make decisions about now, but it doesn't have the judgment that could affect Jia Yan's life in the past. It can still make judgments and actions on small details. Ms. Edisha, has Master Jia Yan not come out of seclusion yet? No, Leda, what do you want to do? I'll tell the Master. The small light and shadow mosquitoes were flying around the planet. In front of it was a behemoth, but this behemoth didn't seem to have such a huge momentum at all. It had a complete sense of subordinates. It is Leda who has made up his mind to be Jia Yan's subordinate. It's a pity that Leda rarely met Jia Yan after the last conflict, and he didn't dare to bother Jia Yan too much. As a result, he didn't have a good conversation with Jia Yan for nearly a month. After all, Jia Yan is originally a member of the Zerg Queen's force. Whether he wants to communicate with anyone in the Zerg Queen's force or wants to talk to the Queen, he can do it himself. Leda is not needed as the middleman at all, so as a result, Leda has been useless recently. This made Leda very worried. He was afraid of losing the title of Jia Yan's only subordinate. Fortunately, Jia Yan has not recently revealed his intention to recruit a Zerg Queen as his subordinate, which has slightly reduced the tension in Leda's heart. But after not seeing each other for so long, he was really afraid that Jia Yan did not want him to be his subordinate. After all, he had not made it clear before. Now that he has returned to the Zerg Queen's force, perhaps Master Jia Yan would tacitly send him back to the Zerg Queen's force. This was a bit unacceptable to Leda. It is not uncommon for a person to go up high and become a subordinate of a senior domain lord, and he can be regarded as a fellow villager. Such an opportunity is not uncommon, and it is much better than being in the Zerg Queen's force. If Leda hadn't been visited less and less by Jia Yan recently, people from the Zerg Queen's forces might have been more envious of him. No. No, I have nothing to do. Lady Edisha, do you have anything you want me to do? Where is Lord Jia Yan? If you have anything, just ask me to do it. After all, I am still your subordinate. Leda was in the Edisha planet, begging for mercy and asking for what she could do. What are you doing? There are so many things. Edita is almost overwhelmed. Leda, do you want to do it? Wow, that's great. Come and help quickly. Editha's compound eyes lit up with excitement, and she was flying around happily. He wanted Leda to help him, because Editha felt that she was very busy and had too many things. Ah! Is there anything I can do for you, Lady Edisha? I am willing to help, and please give me a job. Leda's eyes lit up, and he immediately shouted excitedly to Edisha. He really wanted to work, and he would do anything as long as he could stay by Jia Yan's side. Text download address. Phone reading. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2433. Wow, you are so diligent. Have you seen the mountain over there? I want to move this mountain over there, and you can do it? Okay, Lady Edisha, leave it to me. Leda, who received Edisha's orders, did it regardless of whether it was meaningful or not. Jia Yan was in the palace and had known about Leda's arrival for a long time, but he didn't pay much attention to it. The issue of Leda's stay is not a big problem for him. As long as he is willing, he can bring a subordinate who can do things. After all, he is already a senior domain master. It would be too tiring if he had to do everything by himself, even if he had to use his clone to buy a small commodity. As a strong man, if he has no pursuit at all, then he is still a ghostly strong man. Anyway, Jia Yan has such strength at the moment, and it is natural for him to enjoy some material enjoyment. After someone helps him, he can also be free. Spending a lot of time cultivating can be said to be a blessing in disguise. Huh, comfortable, it feels like drinking. If people on Earth knew that I, a domain master, felt like drinking alcohol after using an item, they would probably be shocked. Of course, my feeling of drinking is not real. Instead of drinking, he became hallucinating. I don't know how much time passed before Jia Yan recovered from the sleep-like feeling. He just felt refreshed. He just swallowed a small amount of mushroom-shaped things, and then his whole perception became quite chaotic, almost falling into his inner world, and then he meditated on a lot of things and had messy dreams. It's no wonder that other powerful territory lords don't dare to use it. They don't want to put their lives on this kind of thing, because they are practicing among ordinary territory lords in the outside world. If they encounter any strong person who takes the opportunity to come, kill them and it will be over. Jia Yan happens to have an advantage at this point. Today's Edisha is within the fifth layer of subspace. In such a deep subspace, even if the domain master comes, it will take a lot of effort, plus the Edisha star has used some high technology and energy, and also has a certain degree of defense, so it can withstand ordinary attacks, which can at least buy him a lot of time to wake up. Of course, if better prevention is needed, then I have to get something similar to the Queen's energy circle. Only in this way can I prevent a domain lord's ordinary attack. Coupled with the uncertainty of subspace, even if it comes, he is a domain master with subspace talents, so I am not too worried about them sneaking up on me while I swallow this mushroom. Jia Yan's long-term practice this time was just an attempt. He was not that stupid. He actually took a large amount of that mushroom, which caused him to relax his vigilance. When the enemy took the opportunity to kill him, he was about to cry without tears. "Rita, come here." Suddenly, Jia Yan shouted Leda. "Here we come, Lord Jia Yan." Leda was in the outside world, engaged in the seemingly endless work of moving mountains with Edissa, when she suddenly heard the sound, and immediately rushed over in surprise. A planet with a diameter of more than 1,000 kilometers can arrive in a blink of an eye for galaxy-level powerhouses like them who can easily reach dozens of kilometers in diameter. Not long after Jia Yan finished speaking, Leda's figure had already arrived at him. Outside the palace. Creak. Jia Yan pushed open the door and walked out. "Leda, you go outside to take a look at the situation, and by the way, ask the Queen and others to make an appointment with the group of people from the outside world. I want to convene them for a small meeting." "Okay, sir, but what is the theme of the meeting?" Leda thought for a while, and although he agreed, he still asked the most crucial question. Because if the theme is not explained, the people who come may be less important beings of those forces. "Well, the theme is regional security. Remember, let their managers come, don't let me go and invite them myself." Jia Yan's words quickly revealed the coldness, which made Leda feel a chill in her heart. In fact, everyone understands that Jia Yan's affability is only towards his own people in the Zerg Queen's power, but towards outsiders, he is really quite cold. This was the case at this time. Leda heard the murderous intention in Jia Yan's words, understood the seriousness of this request, and knew how he should go out and speak. Not long after, Leda said goodbye to Edisha, and flew out of the subspace while the little one said goodbye. "Wow, Edisha is so busy," he ran out to play. Editha was angry and commanded her army of robots to move a mountain to the other side. Jia Yan looked at it helplessly, then looked at the current situation of the entire Edisha star, and then couldn't help but be startled. Yes, this little Hineo actually transformed the Edisha star into a more beautiful one in about 1 month. Oh no, it should be said that he transformed it together with Leda. It is much more sentimental now. It also suits me, a senior domain master. The Edisha star that Jia Yan saw became full of birds and flowers, and most of the creatures were actually not that stupid. They knew deep down that Jia Yan was the master of this place, and some even expressed some simple thoughts. Of course, there was no "it affects the wisdom of the owner of this star," and the scenery is even more pleasant, which is quite in line with Jia Yan's aesthetic sense. It can be said that everything is just right, making Jia Yan relaxed and happy. This is the planet where people can practice cultivation. In such a good mood, how could I not continue practicing? Jia Yan thought for a while and decided to leave it alone to convey his decree. Then he would take advantage of this gap to study the mushroom again. The previous month's research seemed to have caused a slight change in his mind. Jia Yan couldn't say what this change felt like, but he definitely knew that it was a good change. No wonder those strong people need such materials, which are good for their spiritual energy. Although it is not a direct improvement, it is a transformation for the future, which means it is a basic improvement for the future, which is definitely a good thing. Some time passed. Lord Jia Yan, the strong men from all nearby forces have been summoned outside. Leta's voice came from outside the palace. Very good, I'll go out right now. Jia Yan restrained his research, then opened the palace door and soared into the sky. In the subspace, there is still the twisted dark scene. However, the scene outside the subspace is completely different. Just this time, the energy circle outside the space gradually got rid of the way it was when Jia Yan helped build it. It felt like a new Zerg Queen force, and everything returned to the vibrant scene before coming to the central star field of the Milky Way. There are even more new faces joining the force. After all, the Queen of Zerg Force is one of the few nearby forces that definitely has a senior domain master, so there are naturally a lot of strong people who come here because of its reputation. Of course, the Zerg Queen's force has experienced betrayal, and its requirements for those who join will be extremely strict. In other words, so many new entrants are actually only a small part of those who signed up. It's Master Jia Yan. Master Jia Yan is out of seclusion. Is that Lord Jia Yan? The senior domain master is indeed different. What an astonishing grace. Even from such a distance, I can feel the terror of the senior domain master. This is a senior domain lord? This is the first time in my life that I see a senior domain lord. How should I behave so that I can stand out? Waiting online, urgent. From a distance, a large group of powerful people who had just joined the force, one or two, were all marveling at Jia Yan's true appearance. Although there are also rumors in the outside world that Jia Yan himself has admitted that he is not a senior domain lord, but a combat-type domain lord whose strength is similar to that of a senior domain lord, but to outsiders, even senior domain lords have heard of it. There are few, let alone combat-type domain lords, so they just understand Jia Yan as a senior domain lord. Anyway, for an ant, no matter what the two are, they are existences that they cannot resist. Jia Yan also allowed these guys to guess randomly. Master Jia Yan, you are out. The first one to come forward was the Zerg Queen. Her complexion is much better than when we last chatted. After all, the supplies provided by Jia Yan are the Zerg Queen's first choice. Those supplies can not only help her heal her injuries, but will also be of great benefit to her future progress, not to mention it is the existence of life talent. As long as there are enough excellent materials to replenish it, recovery will naturally be fast. Well, Her Majesty the Queen doesn't need to be involved in this matter. I'm sorry to bother you. As soon as Jia Yan saw the Zerg Queen's appearance, he knew that she was busy entertaining guests in the outside world, and he immediately felt embarrassed. After all, those many powerful visitors were summoned by him. He didn't come out to greet them, but they troubled the Zerg Queen. This is really embarrassing for Jia Yan. No trouble, I happen to be dealing with these forces, because at least in the near future, our forces still need to interact with them. And thanks to them, our resources have not been cut off recently. Due to circumstances and reasons, I also want to entertain well done to these distinguished guests. The Zerg Queen shook her head. She didn't know why Jia Yan called the high-level guests of these forces to come, but she knew very well that Jia Yan would not do anything that would harm the interests of the Zerg Queen's forces, because it was simply unnecessary. If Jia Yan wanted to do something, it would have been better if we had not saved the Zerg Queen's forces before. So she believed it without reservation. After chatting with the Zerg Queen, Jia Yan finally came to the so-called guests. This is a group of strong people, almost all of whom are domain lords. 19 in total. You know, Jia Yan has never seen more than 19 domain lords in other places except in Biostar. Therefore, the scene was quite grand, and several of the territory lords had even vaguely formed an alliance. There was some kind of temptation and ferocity in their eyes when they looked at the approaching mosquitoes. That's right, the number of 19 people brought by them gave them the slightest thought of fighting against Jia Yan. However, under normal circumstances, if the attributes of 19 domain lords are incompatible, it is really possible to fight against a senior domain lord. After all, senior domain lords are said to be stronger than ordinary domain lords, but at a large level, they are still on the same level as ordinary domain lords. The masters have similar strengths, at least not as big a difference in strength between the mid-level domain masters and the senior domain masters. But their ferocious light faded away quickly after they remembered that Jia Yan was not only a combat-type domain lord equivalent to a senior domain lord, but also a subspace talent. The senior domain master is not so scary. What is scary is that the senior domain master is also a relatively troublesome subspace talent among the domain masters. If he can't beat you, the subspace talent exists enough to escape, but if he is allowed to escape, he will suffer endless pursuit, harassment, and death threats anytime and anywhere in the future. No territory lord is willing to live under that kind of pressure, not even another senior territory lord, nor is he willing to offend a subspace gifted creature of the senior territory lord level. Therefore, the unruly ones among them just flashed their brilliance for a while, then concentrated their thoughts deep in their hearts, and did not make eye contact with Jia Yan at all. Hello everyone, my name is Jia Yan. Most of you must already know something about me. Jia Yan calmly flew to this group of domain lord creatures and a few of the galaxy's mid-level pinnacle creatures. Regardless of their strength, this group of beings must be high-level people in their respective forces, or even directly the leaders of the forces. Even the Dolphin Domain Master is here today, but in the group of strong people, they dodge from time to time and do not interact with Jia. Rock front contact. Even if it is to threaten them next, Jia Yan still gives respect to all the big shots in terms of address etiquette. The world is like this. Even if you have a deep hatred with the other party, it is necessary to give a certain amount of respect to the strong, because your attitude towards others is how others will treat you in the future. This is the entire environment for strong people, and it is also the belief in their cultivation. Seeing that Jia Yan's attitude was not so arrogant, the creatures below also felt a lot better about Jia Yan. This is the magnanimity of a strong man. Most of them have also met senior domain lords, but other senior domain lords rely on their own strength and often treat them with a lot of condescension, but Jia Yan is different from those senior ones. This is also from the beginning. Let these domain owners feel the reason for respect. Hello Lord Jia Yan, I wonder why Lord Jia Yan summoned us here. That's right, Mr. Jia Yan, please open the skylight and speak frankly. If there is anything you need me to do, please tell me directly. As long as it is not too difficult, we will not hesitate to do it. Among the several territory lords, some were impatient and others had considerable strength, so they started talking directly. They are also territory lords, so they naturally do not feel too humble towards a senior territory lord. Among them, those who have senior support behind them, or even more than one senior supporter, are even more confident, as if they are not too afraid of Jia Yan. Of course, under such circumstances, if Jia Yan made any demands that they could not accept, despite the excellent attitude of these domain owners, they may have more choices and would not accept them. Text download address. Phone reading. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2434. Facing such an unruly group of territory lords, Jia Yan was not unhappy at all. Because theoretically, most of them are at the same level as themselves, that is, strong people of the same level. He is a person of the same level. It is difficult to treat someone of the same level as someone who is not the same level. Otherwise, he will deny his own level. Besides, he was already so arrogant that he called these creatures to come as if he was ordering them. They recognized Jia Yan's strength and identity. Otherwise, why would they come? We are all so angry with Jia Yan, so what if we let them vent their anger, right? Jia Yan's temperament was not that of someone who would get angry over such a trivial matter. You don't need to worry too much. I, Jia Yan, am not an ignorant person. When I ask you to come, I don't ask you to go through fire and water, nor do I ask you to do something that you can't do. It's just that I want you to be in the future. During this period of time, try to take more care of the Zerg Queen force that I belong to. After all, I am usually practicing, and there are often times when I can't take care of it. That's it. The strong men around them suddenly wanted to say MMP in their minds. For such an order, summon so many of their domain lord level experts to come here? Don't you know that these people are all busy with their day-to-day affairs? Originally, these powerful creatures all wanted to curse, but this thought rolled in their hearts, and when they thought about Jia Yan's words carefully, they were suddenly stunned. Because after chewing carefully, they immediately understood that Jia Yan's words might have a deep meaning. He would not call these powerful people inexplicably, saying that they were taking care of the Zerg Queen's force. He was probably trying to deal with them. He might be leaving the Zerg Queen's force soon. That's right, as far as they know, this strong man at the senior domain lord level does not have too much interest in the Zerg Queen's force. Even many of the materials for the reconstruction of the Zerg Queen's force were provided by this strong man, that is. It is said that this strong man will gain nothing at all if he stays in the Zerg Queen's power, and his departure is absolutely destined. Of course, Jia Yan will not directly say that he is leaving, and it is not certain whether he will actually leave. After all, he is currently protecting the Zerg Queen. If he tells it directly, the Zerg Queen will become the target of those around him. The result of bullying by many forces. With such vague words, they immediately understood that Jia Yan was just giving eye drops. Even if something happened in the future, Jia Yan didn't have to come forward. They didn't know whether Jia Yan had really left or not. Moreover, it is uncertain how far he will go and whether he will return often. What's uncomfortable is that even if Jia Yan tells this information, it's still unclear. These domain masters are 1 by 2. It's not clear whether Jia Yan is leaving immediately, or whether he is just wandering around at a close distance. Moreover, Jia Yan is also a person with strong subspace talents. With his subspace ability at the level of a senior domain lord, I am afraid that he comes and goes quietly without being noticed by these domain lords, making it difficult to grasp his specific whereabouts. Uncomfortable. A group of domain owners who were just listening at first, after chewing on it, felt that Jia Yan told this information, which directly made them uncomfortable to death. Do you want to leave or don't want to leave? Let's be clear, it's not a good thing to keep people appetizing, you know. Jia Yan looked at these creatures indifferently, just looking at them, but did not say whether he would really leave. In short, he kept silent, so that he could create some enchantment. Let the future Zerg Queen force become safer. At least if they stay in this area for a while, there will be no safety problems. Yes, Jia Yan is already thinking about leaving this place. After all, he is a strong man who has been wandering around all his life. Although it is not very appropriate to say that, Jia Yan himself thinks so. He is like a stray dog and can often be found in desperate places. Own path to strength. Now that he is in the stagnation period, he needs to travel more places and find his way to improvement faster. Even if it takes 10 or 20 years, or even 40 or 50 years, as long as he keeps moving, there is always a way to truly become a senior domain master. Okay, we understand. Don't worry, Mr. Jiayan, we will take care of the Zerg Queen's forces. We also need to ask the Zerg Queen to take good care of us in the future. A group of domain masters below shook their heads and sighed with a wry smile. Some of them were still thinking that the Zerg Queen's power would take root here. You don't have to worry. The Zerg Queen will just rest here for a while and will leave on her own initiative in a few days. It won't infringe too many of your interests, so you don't need to worry too much. I'll tell you this myself. I won't lie to you. Jia Yan continued to speak, which immediately made all the domain masters suddenly happy. As long as they can guarantee that the Zerg Queen will leave in the future, they are still willing to just allow the Zerg Queen to provide considerable support while they are here. This is like spending money to eliminate disasters. In the past, many of them took advantage of the Zerg Queen's forces, especially those who hired the Zerg Queen's forces to fight. Now they deserve their punishment. As for those who have not used force against the Zerg Queen's forces, they have even shown mercy to the Zerg Queen. The Queen's force will also provide less supplies to the Zerg Queen's force in the future. The characters in the Zerg Queen's force, including Jia Yan, are not people who repay kindness with enmity. In this way, the matter was finished quickly, but of course Jia Yan would not just talk about these things. He pulled the group of domain owners and talked about other things to give them some face. He also let them see some of the energy shield of the Zerg Queen's power. Although many attractions in the park are just newly built, they are completely replicas of the previous energy shields, so there are many illusions and interesting stories. In this way, these territory lords who were originally not satisfied felt a lot better. Jia Yantang, a senior territory lord, gave them face and personally accompanied them. Such generous treatment can be regarded as a glorious moment in their lives. Of course, when these guests who were treated like this by Jia Yan encountered the Zerg Queen's forces in the future, they would not see too many benefits, but might open up the net and give the benefits to the Zerg Queen's forces. Moreover, the Zerg Queen's forces did not originally intend to take too many benefits from these forces. The previous compensation had already allowed them to operate again, especially the reconstruction of the energy circle, the manufacturing of certain small objects, and output, all began to continue operating. Which also gives the Zerg Queen the ability to be self-sufficient and no longer needs to ask for compensation from the outside world. Jia Yan actually doesn't know that the Zerg Queen's forces in the central star field of the galaxy have been producing large quantities of finished medicinal materials with no vitality through the energy circle and the life talent of the Zerg Queen herself. After being sold, they can be used to treat ordinary injuries. All have good effects, and this was also the previous largest source of income for the Zerg Queen. Very well, Mr. Jia Yan, you are a good friend. I hope we can continue to chat in the future. 31. Well, I also hope that there will be another day. I am deeply impressed by your humor. Jia Yan sent away another powerful domain lord. Among these territory lords, there are many who are similar to the dolphin territory lords. Even if they can be on par with dolphin creatures, there are still one or two. But in Jia Yan's hands, they couldn't make any waves. In the same way, the dolphin himself cannot make waves. Okay, it's your turn, Your Excellency Dolphin. I didn't expect that Your Excellency would come in person this time. You are worthy of being the master of a major force. Jia Yan turned around with a smile and looked at the last guest, the dolphin. Everyone else had left, and Dolphin was arranged to be the last one to see off, which made him extremely nervous. He didn't know what Jia Yan had planned by leaving him as the last guest to see off. Don't try to kill him. If that's the case, he might not be able to get through today's hurdle. Haha, Master Jia Yan is joking. I knew before that Master Jia Yan is a big man who keeps his word. He will definitely not pursue anything because of my past unintentional mistakes. Besides, Master Gaia has told me that Jia Yan is a man of his word. Master Yan has made an agreement with him, and what happened in the past is in the past, so he must not break his promise. The dolphin creature said the matter clearly and concisely in a few words. The first is to flatter Jia Yan, saying that Jia Yan will not break his promise, and the second is to say that Gaia once made an agreement with Jia Yan. The meaning of this is that Lord Gaia and Jia Yan had an agreement, but you just don't. For my sake, but also for the sake of Lord Gaia. Jia Yan was speechless. He is worthy of being the leader of a powerful force. This can be said to be courageous and resourceful, right? Jia Yan smiled, then shook his head. Don't worry, I am naturally not the kind of person who goes back on my words, not to mention that I have no benefit in dealing with you. I just asked you to stay and prepare some transactions with you. I wonder what deal Master Jia Yan has. Hearing that Jia Yan was not trying to deal with him, the dolphin creature let out a long sigh of relief, and then asked curiously. Jia Yan saw that he relaxed and understood that the two parties could communicate normally. It's like this. I'm really planning to leave this starry sky for a while. Of course, I will come back from time to see the situation of the Mother Force. You also understand that I have some feelings for the Zerg Queen, and so do these friends in the Force. My old friend, so I won't let the old friend's forces be in any danger, so during this period, I would like to ask you to take special care of the Zerg Queen's forces. What do you think? Of course, I'm willing to help. Dolphin nodded, but said it was a transaction. Wasn't this a unilateral request for him to pay? He needs to take a closer look at this matter. After all, it is about taking care of him. No one can explain to what extent he takes care of him. There is a lot of free space in it. Of course I won't ask you to do anything unrewarded. That's it? If you are willing to do it, I will let the Zerg Queen conduct future product transactions with you, and you will be responsible for the main sales and development. In addition, I am here some high-level energy materials were taken out from the North Star in the black hole area. You are a cultivator and you should know their value after seeing them. I will give these objects to you as protection money to you first. I don't know. How do you feel? Jia Yan moved his feet, and a hole opened in the subspace, and several material minerals containing terrifying power flew out. These kinds of materials are naturally the high-grade minerals that Jia Yan brought from inside the North Superstar. They are still of great use to him at the moment. They must be even more attractive to ordinary domain owners from the outside world. What? The high-level materials in the North Star, this power, is so scary. As soon as the dolphin creatures sensed the energy level of the minerals and other materials, their breathing suddenly froze a little. Of course, they couldn't breathe in the universe, but their expression was as if their breathing had stopped. The biological instinct made him understand that this thing would really help him a lot, and he wanted it. But when Jia Yan took out such an item, he was really afraid that he would get into trouble, so after showing a hint of desire, he instantly returned to normal and became rational. Don't worry, I just want you to take care of my Mother Force a little bit. I will still come back from time to time, and the Zerg Queen's force will definitely leave here in as little as 3 to 5 years and as many as 10 years. Then you will nothing is wrong, and the Zerg Queen and the others don't have any old enemies, so you don't have to worry about trouble. Jia Yan really just came up with a little sweetener. If something unexpected happens to the Zerg Queen's force in the future, he can use this excuse to destroy the Dolphin force. Presumably, if there is a real problem, he will not dodge the Dolphin. But speaking of the old enemy of the Zerg Queen's force, Jia Yan remembered what the Zerg Queen and the others said. In the coming passage, there was a domain lord who had been chasing them, which led to the Zerg Queen and others. People are extremely passive in this starry sky. Now that we have reached this level, if we have the chance, let's deal with this old enemy's affairs. Jia Yan made a decision. There are only ordinary domain lord level forces, and he no longer has the slightest fear or worry. To a certain extent, he can be more dissolute than the experienced senior domain lords like Gaia, because he is a senior level with subspace talent. Territory Lord, it is even possible to escape the pursuit of the mid-level creatures of the Territory Lord. Of course, he can be more dissolute to a certain extent than Territory Lords like Gaia. Okay. Dolphin looked at Jia Yan's sincere eyes and finally agreed after hesitating. He knows that it is normal for Jia Yan to come out of a superstar and carry the high-level energy brought by a superstar. Moreover, he is a senior domain lord level existence. It is said that he is not too weak even among superstars, so these materials are probably nothing to him. Text download address. Phone reading. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2435. But for the dolphins, these supplies are really needed. Even if it is just one piece, he feels that after absorbing it, he will be one step closer to the senior domain master. Besides, he had also investigated the past of the Zerg Queen's forces, and there shouldn't be too much trouble, so he took the next step. Very well, the supplies are yours. Jia Yan breathed a sigh of relief and threw out a few pieces of energy. This is all he can do to help the Zerg Queen. Although dolphin creatures are only slightly stronger than other beings, they are still strong. If there is any problem, with a little help, maybe the Zerg Queen and others will have time to escape. After accepting Jia Yan's benefits, if he doesn't do something, no one will be able to save the dolphin creature when Jia Yan returns in the future. After doing this, Jia Yan exchanged a few words with the dolphin creature, and especially asked emphatically about the powerful domain lord level man who originally hunted down the Zerg Queen. Lord Jia Yan, do you want to stand up for the Zerg Queen and the others? However, although that powerful creature's combat power is slightly weaker than mine, there is still a problem with his identity. After listening to Jia Yan's words, Dolphin suddenly felt a little nervous. Jia Yan was keenly aware of this tension. Oh? Is this Territory Lord's background very tough? Even you are afraid of? Yes, Lord Jia Yan, although this creature has parted ways with his family, all the forces near the entire route know that he is the son of a middle-level powerhouse close to the domain lord. Because of his father's existence, how dare you be so presumptuous and regard the entire waterway as your own? As soon as the dolphin creature said it, Jia Yan knew what he meant. Interestingly, this leader of forces in the outer reaches of the central star field of the Milky Way actually has a father who is close to the middle-level domain lord. Is he a proper strong second generation? Can you give me the information about him and the family behind him? Okay, I will send it to your brain right now, but Master Jia Yan, it is not a joke to touch the heir of a middle-level powerhouse close to the domain lord. You should be careful. I see. Jia Yan agreed calmly, accepted the documents sent by the dolphin creature, and exchanged a few words. There was nothing more to say between the two parties, and the dolphin creature said goodbye and left. This is probably the last time Jia Yan will see him recently. Jia Yan is really planning to leave here in a while. Anyway, his attitude is extremely vague. At least in the recent period, no force dares to touch the Zerg Queen. In the future, as long as the Zerg Queen moves out of this area within 10 years and does not compete with others for any benefits, then no one will come to stop them from leaving. Anyone who is smart should know that the resources in the Zerg Queen's force have long been monopolized by Jia Yan, especially those materials that can only be used by high-level powerhouses that are coveted by many forces. Jia Yan must have been in high spirits recently. He definitely took it. So even if you trouble the Zerg Queen's forces, you won't get much in return. As for trouble with Jia Yan, that's something only a fool would do. Are you done talking to them? The Zerg Queen, who had not shown up during the whole process, flew out from the corner after Jia Yan sent away the last Dolphin Territory Lord. Yes, Her Majesty the Queen, you also understand that I will not stay here for a long time. The following domain lords have been beaten by me. I think they will not have any changes in the power for the time being. However, this has also been the case in recent years. In the next 10 years, you must let the forces leave, or you must improve your strength to at least the level of a dolphin, otherwise it will not be easy. Do you understand what I mean? I understand, whether the strength improves or not is secondary. I don't want to stay here in the future. The Zerg Queen shook her head. Not saying whether her strength will rise to the level of a dolphin, I just say that the Zerg Queen's power has offended many people nearby, or that many people have offended the Zerg Queen's power, and they are all worried that the Zerg Queen's power will develop and seek revenge on them. This kind of thing is like the former Chinese nation on Earth, which has been bullied by foreign countries for a long time, but other countries are extremely worried about the re-emergence of the Chinese nation and revenge on them, which is the so-called victim paranoia. The Zerg Queen doesn't want to stay in a place like this and make herself unhappy, so she will leave in the future. I also understand that you are probably still worried about the territory lord who has been chasing you. This time I went out and stopped by to check on him. If he doesn't want to repent, I will get rid of him. But in that case, come on, our forces will leave faster, because the powerful family behind them will probably follow the clues to find the forces, and I don't have the ability to eradicate his entire family for the time being, so I will try my best to resolve this matter peacefully. Okay. After communicating with the Zerg Queen for some time, Jia Yan found that after so many days, when he and the Zerg Queen chatted again, they no longer had the same feeling of traveling hand in hand before, and he couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Time is like a butcher's knife, even the Zerg Queen ignores herself. The Zerg Queen did not feel Jia Yan's depression, but on her face that resembled the beauty of the earth, a little disappointment appeared, but it only passed by briefly. After a while, Jia Yan chatted with several powerful Zerg Queen forces, and told them to stay in the Zerg Queen force well. He also explained that he would return frequently in the future, so that when they encountered problems, they should not think about it. When it comes to leaving the power of the Zerg Queen, especially if you can't be a judge, Black Sheep is a lesson learned from the past. Speaking of which, Black Sheep's body has been disposed of, and many problems within the Zerg Queen's forces have been almost resolved. It's time for me to leave. Jia Yan sighed. Returning to the subspace, he looked a little sad. After a long time, the power of the Zerg Queen, who he thought was his thigh at the beginning, now needs to be his thigh. The powerful Zerg Queen, whom he thought at the beginning, now also needs his protection. Is this what genius feels like? 1 or 2 passed, and then all the things that had been weighing on their heads were lifted out of the fog. There is no way, who can make yourself a genius. Thinking about it this way, the slightest hint of desolation turned into excitement and pride. As for the meaning hidden deep in the eyes of the Zerg Queen, how could he understand it? If he understood it, he would not be a straight man. Edisha, get ready, we will leave in a few days. Jia Yan entered the Edisha star and said casually to the air around him. In a blink of an eye, I happened to see Leda, who was busy on the planet. At this time, his body suddenly shook and became a little stiff. He knew what Leda was worried about, and then gave a seemingly casual order, Leda, be prepared. If you don't want to leave with me, then go down to the planet. If you want, go say goodbye to your friends. We're leaving soon. Okay, I am willing. Lord Jia Yan, wait a moment, I will come as soon as I can. Only then did Leda's face look better. He nodded and bowed to Jia Yan for a while, and then flew out of the subspace. Jia Yan himself crawled back to the palace. It was said that although this palace was not as good as the huge palace rebuilt by the Zerg Queen, it was better than ever and became more and more exquisite. Editha took advantage of Jia Yan's several outings, and every time we sent a robot to the palace, humming a little tune, painting and drawing, and the exquisite small utensils and oil paintings gradually gave the palace a sense of perfection. After all, the materials in Jia Yan's hands are all high-end, and they look very stylish when decorated. In addition, Edisha's work is not fake. They all refer to a large number of designs on the internet. The final tricks are definitely not inferior to ordinary ones. Design team. The same is true for outside planets. If someone who knew Edisha before came to see it, they would definitely be amazed because it has become so beautiful that even giant creatures can be appreciated here. Jia Yan is satisfied with such a living environment, even if it costs a lot of money. This kind of mushroom is said to be produced on the other side of the Milky Way. I'll go there and have a look next time. But when I leave this time, I don't want to go there. I first have to go back the same way and find the one who has dealt with the Queen and the others. Territory Lord, give him a certain verbal warning, and then go back to Orion Arm to have a look. I am a little worried about the concubine. In his heart, Jia Yan was still a little worried about the female creature that talked about combining with him and then went crazy. In addition, it has been a long time since I actually returned to the Orion Arm. By the way, I can take this opportunity to return to the Orion Arm to see if there is anything I need help with. He can also do it. I have thought about the route clearly, but it is a long way. I can't go back to the peaceful star territory to see how my yin-yang sect is doing during this process, or go to some places with pleasant scenery that I want to visit. Even though I have gained more experience, I have been here in the Milky Way Central Star region for so long, and I have never seen the beautiful scenery here. It would be a pity not to go and see it. Jia Yan thought about it, chewed it carefully, and found that next to him was a new subordinate like Leda, who was more flesh and blood than the brain like Editha. Maybe he would also be able to do it during the long journey in the future. There might be one more character to relieve loneliness. Oh no. There is an ambiguity in this statement. He does not want to relieve his loneliness with a male, but with a friend and subordinate by his side. At least he will not be as lonely as he was in the process of becoming stronger in the past. Sir, I'm back. Suddenly, Jia Yan felt energy approaching from outside the subspace, and then Leda's familiar voice sounded. So fast. Ha ha ha, those guys and I have already had time to breathe, and we can't hinder the adults' travel. Of course, the sooner the better. Jia Yan was speechless as he felt Leda entering the subspace from the outside world. This guy is like a little pet that is afraid of being abandoned. It follows its owner closely, fearing that the owner will walk away. Okay, Edissa, are you ready to go? Let's set sail. Good master. Editha flew out of the air and turned into a small mosquito of light and shadow, flying up and down like a sacrifice, making all kinds of noises, and then settled in mid-air. Hurry up like the law. Take off. Buzz. The huge planet started quickly, and then slowly flew forward. The distortion in the subspace could not hinder the flight of the planet at all. It was gradually pushed away from the twisted darkness. The entire planet completely ignored the huge force of tearing and gradually sank into the deep levels of the subspace. Yin yin yin. Finally, the subspace reached 10 degrees, and it was not the shallow level of 10 degrees, but directly entered the deep level of 10 degrees of subspace. Haha, Edisha asked a great expert on the internet to teach me how to enter deeper theories. It turned out to be correct. Edisha turned somersaults again, and then ordered the second Edisha star to slowly move forward. Jia Yan was a little surprised. You must know that in the previous situation, when Edisha star entered the 10-dimensional space, he needed a certain amount of energy to help it become more stable. Unexpectedly, he is not needed now. Edisha asked, are the masters that powerful? After careful questioning, Jia Yan finally understood. It turns out that it's not that the expert is great, but that he is a theoretical scientist and has been studying subspace for a long time. However, he has never built a space detector that can enter more than 7 degrees. He is just very theoretical, and Edisha has learned a lot from him. There were few things, and then Jia Yan just let it go and let it use high-level materials, so he tried using it and found that it really worked. In other words, this thing was invented by Edisha. They just gave it an idea. The subsequent tests and a large amount of data analysis and collection were all done by Edisha. If the scientist really wanted to do it himself, I'm afraid he would. On the contrary, it is not so easy to make a physical object. After all, Edisha already has a lot of practical experience and first-hand data in the 10-dimensional space. Good. Jia Yan just smiled slightly, knowing that Evan's Hineo was growing around him, and that was enough. Others will also grow. Jia Yan seems to rarely see things that can grow with him. Apart from black sheep, there seem to be very few things that grow with him in his eyes. In fact, it is because he grows too fast. I hope that my yin-yang Dao power will produce some figures in the bookstore over the years. No, it should be said that after so many years, without me, I hope that the yin-yang sect will not be destroyed. Jia Yan thought of the yin-yang sect and shook his head helplessly. For many things, even though he has only been away for a few years, it is likely that this has already undergone earth-shaking changes in the central star field of the Milky Way, which is changing rapidly. What he wants to do is very simple. Now that he has the strength, if the yin-yang sect has been destroyed, he will find a way to take revenge, rebuild or something, but he doesn't have the energy, and the place is not quite right. And if it hasn't been destroyed yet, then continue to take care of it, and at the same time, intimidate the surrounding Xiao Xiao, so that the yin-yang sect, which is already in its infancy, can continue to grow well with a little more external force. Hoo. In the subspace, Edisha gradually accelerated and left the place where the Zerg Queen's power was located. Within this force, a female creature with a stunning female face who was in the palace raised her head as delicately as a flower and looked at a certain place in the starry sky, which was the direction in which the star Edisha was flying away. Text download address. Phone reading. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2436. That's it, that's fine. In his image, I'm probably not the standard for choosing a mate at all. The Zerg Queen shook her head indifferently, and then there was still a trace of emotion, which instantly disappeared deep in her heart. Whose girl is not pregnant? Even such a super-powerful female creature will also have the Monkey King stepping on the auspicious clouds and descending from the sky to save her dream. Unfortunately, the Monkey King came, but he was just a naive Monkey King. This girl's dream was extinguished in an instant. Oh, it's also a bit wrong to compare the super-powerful Zerg Queen to a girl. In short, this gossip that should have caused problems ended before it even started due to Jia Yan's amazing ability to be a straight man. Boom. In the subspace, the huge planets created silence, disrupting large areas of chaotic subspace. Jia Yan is already reading the information, and there is a person involved in the planet. He can determine through questioning the level of the domain lord level powerhouse he will face soon. Lord Jia Yan, it's like this. I had an encounter with that person back then. If it weren't for the help of Her Majesty the Queen, maybe several of the stars we sent out together would have died under his blow. He is really powerful, even Her Majesty the Queen cannot beat him, but I can definitely say that this territory lord is not as powerful as the dolphin, so he is somewhere between the strength of Her Majesty the Queen and the dolphin. Compared to you, that is naturally not worth mentioning, but if you want to take action, sir, you must take into account the family behind him. When he chased us to the dolphin's star field, the dolphins also stepped forward to intercept him. As a result, that the territory lord is very arrogant. After knowing the origin of the other party, dolphins and others did not dare to take serious action and just ran away. This shows how deep his background is. Leda was received by Jia Yan in the Edisha Star, and then told Jia Yan the information she knew. Jia Yan pondered for a long time. He knew that what Leda said was definitely not false, and the people from the Zerg Queen's side had already told him about this matter, so he understood that there might be someone behind the existence that he would confront in the future. A creature that is close to the mid-level domain lord. Is it close to the middle-level territory lord? It is said to be close, but the gap between close and already is still huge. Naturally, I will not provoke a middle-level territory lord, but a strong person who is just close. If I have a conflict with him, even if I can't defeat him, I can easily escape his pursuit. After all, more than one person has said before that I am a powerful person with subspace talents and have reached the combat power of a senior domain lord. I am afraid that a real domain lord, even middle-level people, may not be able to hunt me down. Jia Yan also has someone to rely on. His subspace talent has become more difficult to deal with after reaching the combat level of a senior domain master. Although the talent and ability of each talent are different, there must be strong and weak. Although he lacks strength accumulation, but his experience in the North Star is his strongest point. At least the pressure and training he received there ensure that his combat effectiveness in the outside world is also the most terrifying among his peers, as is his continuous space talent. Although Jia Yan was a little worried about the existence of the Territory Lord's backer who was close to the middle-level Territory Lord, these were not the reasons for him not to complete the matter. Now that you have helped the Zerg Queen's force and maintained your ties with your friends in the Zerg Queen's force, you can't give up after reaching the 90th step, right? So not only did he have to do this last step, but he also had to do it well. This is no longer a question of friendship, but a question of being a human being. That's right, those who do 100 things are half 100. Everything depends on the result. People who give up after 90 steps are sometimes more hateful than those who don't do it in the first place. Jia Yan thought lightly. Then he turned to Leda and said, Leda, I will give you a task. When you get there, you can help me submit a petition to the Domain Lord. Do you dare or not? Well. Leda was startled. Then he nodded directly without much hesitation, Master Jia Yan, I have said that since I follow you, Master Jia Yan, I will listen to your orders, not to mention there shouldn't be much danger in this matter. Okay then, go ahead and get ready. Jia Yan nodded. This was a test for Rita. If he is not even willing to do this kind of thing and just wants to enjoy the happiness with himself, then forget it. He, Jia Yan, cannot afford to serve such a subordinate. There is a high probability that Jia Yan will return Leda to the power of the Zerg Queen. It doesn't matter if it means wasting his time. Fortunately, Leda did not give up on Jia Yan's orders just because he was Jia Yan's former friend, but was very sensible and willing to take risks. This is also the benefit of being sensible. Don't think that everyone's three views are righteous, including many people on the earth. When they look at others, their three views are extremely righteous, or if they are beneficial to themselves, they are quite righteous. But once things are harmful to their own interests or do not go according to their own wishes, their three views can be distorted to the sky. But strong people don't have so many problems. At least like Leda, they will not refuse their boss's request just because they are their boss's former good friends. They have gained the correct outlook on doing things from a large number of life experiences in the past. Jia Yan was relieved. Leda was more nervous. Because he was going to meet the Territory Lord soon, and he had even faced off against this strong man in the Zerg Queen's camp. What's more, the other party doesn't know Jia Yan's name now. If he becomes the person who sends greetings, he might be unhappy and kill him. I will naturally not fail at what Lord Jia Yan wants me to do. Leda prepared some life-saving measures, and in the following days, he tried his best to increase his energy to the limit and was fully prepared. Even if he is just a junior powerhouse in the galaxy, no matter how hard he tries, he will not be able to do much harm to a territory lord, but it is always good to increase his full strength. Wow, Leda can also practice. Aditya was in the air, and originally wanted to play with Leda, but she wanted to find Leda to do serious work in building the planet, but when she saw Leda actually practicing, she was stunned. Leda has been in the Edissa's star for so long, but she has never seen him practice. He has been dragged around by Edissa to do things. Now it has just seen it for the first time. It turns out that Leda can practice. It is a little sad that no one will play with it in the future, but I will work with it. Forget it, Edissa is looking for a robot to play with. Edissa is a person to begin with, so it doesn't matter now. Aditya's young mind was greatly traumatized, so she went to play with the robot. Phew, she went to work. Jia Yan was not idle either. When he saw Leda from outside, under his nose, he found a place to practice for the first time. He immediately smiled knowingly. Previously, Leda was probably worried that Jia Yan thought he was too idle, so he had been busy with Edisha and didn't even dare to practice. Now he finally forced him to practice, which can be regarded as gradually becoming his own. It's a manifestation of human beings. Okay, it's time for me to get ready. Although my strength in brainwave power has not been mentioned much recently, to the outside world, my abilities in other aspects have actually improved. Especially this mushroom. On the surface, it seems it didn't add anything to me, but I always feel that my concentration is much stronger than usual, which shows that its so-called effect on high-level experts is still good. Jia Yan continued to practice with these mushrooms, constantly tempering his mind. Compared with the strong people who can really use these mushrooms, Jia Yan can use them very slowly, but this is enough. As long as he can use them, the speed of using them to practice in the future will slowly increase until Jia Yan's the strength has truly reached a new peak. Buzz buzz. The flight in subspace lasted for half a month, and it was not a short journey. Until one day, Edisha suddenly slowed down the Edisha star, and then controlled the planet to gradually fly out from the 10-degree deep subspace. Master, Leda, we are here. Aditya flew around, waking the two of them up. Are we here? Leda's face instantly turned pale and extremely ugly. He was not fully prepared yet. However, it is useless no matter how prepared he is for this matter. Unless he can cultivate to be stronger than that territory lord now, there is no use no matter how prepared he is. So he stood up helplessly, and then he saw Jia Yan, who was in the palace, also walked out of the palace and looked at Leda from a distance. In the future, I will increase the size of Edisha star. You can also build a palace. Jia Yan saw him and smiled slightly. Ah. Okay, thank you, Mr. Jia Yan. Rita was flattered. You must know that he followed Jia Yan and had already planned to be a subordinate with a low status in front of Jia Yan in the future. He did not expect that Jia Yan would give him as much respect as possible while telling him what to do. Edisha does it. Edisha can make palaces. Aditya rushed to the front and asked for the job. After all, it had been idle recently. You were asked to do it, and no one will compete with you. Jia Yan shook his head, feeling that Aditya has been really humane recently. After he upgraded last time, he always regarded Aditya as a human being. Real kids look at it. Of course, this kid is not the frizzy kind, but the kind who can really get things done and get things done well. As she spoke, Edisha's star gradually flew out of the deep levels of subspace. When it reaches the 5th degree, even Leda can barely get in and out, and at this depth, as long as there are no targeted detectors from the outside world, generally speaking, Edisha cannot be found. Okay, Leda, this is my message and the stone is for you. If there is any danger, throw it out and I will know. Jia Yan calmly handed the message and an energy stone of positive and negative power to Leda, and he did not explain clearly what the stone was used for. It was just a bit big, about half a kilometer. It's so big that it looks like a necklace when placed on the 30-kilometer-sized Leda. Leighton nodded and did not doubt the identity of the bead. He took it and put it away, and then flew out of the Edisha star. What to do next, Jia Yan didn't teach him, and he couldn't teach him well, because he didn't do anything to deliver oral messages. Leda had to do everything by himself. If Jia Yan had to teach him, then Leda couldn't talk about it. A qualified subordinate, and his own abilities are too poor. Master, does Leighton know that the bead is very powerful? Edisha flew down, landed on Jia Yan, and asked curiously. What he probably doesn't know is that with such a positive and negative power stone, it is very difficult to kill a very powerful domain lord, so the role of the beads is nothing more than to delay the enemy's offensive, and just tell me the information about him. Jia Yan shook his head. His own family knows his own affairs, and his positive and negative explosive stones are indeed extremely powerful, but it depends on who uses them, not to mention that the power of one is not too terrifying. Therefore, giving Leda one of these would at best serve as a protective function, but it would be impossible to kill the domain lord. Of course, if this bead explodes, Jia Yan will immediately sense it and rush out immediately. This is also a very strong protective force for Leda. But Jia Yan wouldn't say it. He just wanted to see what Leda's specific ability was. If he couldn't handle this matter, then the things Jia Yan would ask him to do in the future wouldn't be so difficult. Yes, this post is also part of Leda's test. Who? Leda flew in the twisted subspace. Although he could fly, he still felt uncomfortable when flying out of the fifth dimension. This is like an injection. Although humans can tolerate injections, no one likes pain. The same goes for Leda. He usually doesn't like to go in and out of Edissa because it's uncomfortable. Of course, if you want to do tasks or something, you still have to go back and forth, otherwise it is really impossible for Jia Yan to keep him idle. Negotiating with a territory lord who is stronger than the queen, and an enemy who has fought head-on before. Leda let out a sigh of relief. He didn't blame Jia Yan for anything. After all, it was impossible to pass an oral message. Lord Jia Yan needed to come forward in person, right? That's a ghost message, and where is the face of a senior domain lord? Therefore, as a subordinate Leda, it is an absolute basic task to help Jia Yan do such things. If you don't want to do this, then you should leave as early as possible and leave Master Jia Yan as soon as possible to avoid being chased away. Let's go, both sides will lose face. When the territory lord chased us last time, I had a fight with Black Sheep. No, Black Sheep stepped in to stop her. The queen was already seriously injured at that time. If our energy circle hadn't withstood 2 of his attacks, I was already dead at that time, so he might attack as soon as he sees my face. This is also the most dangerous possibility for me, so what should I do to prevent him from seeing me the first time? Just attack. Leda thought deeply. Jia Yan said, give him a few days, that is to say, instead of asking him to rush forward with a strong head and communicate with other people's forces, he can be allowed to use his brain based on the information. Text download address. Phone reading.